Yo, Cameron, how are you today?
I'm pretty good, Mike. How are you?
Yeah, pretty good. Welcome, everybody, to Drink Full and Descend, a fanatical analysis of Twin Peaks. We're going to be discussing episode 10 tonight of The Return.
Yep, looking forward to it, as always.
Yep, so we had a couple weeks off, then we jumped back in with 9. There was a lot of exposition in 9.
Indeed.
And here we are at 10.
Yeah, and it's a lot of plot, or not a lot of metaphysical weirdness, at least. Or, well, a little bit.
A little bit of that, but I like how it's grounding us back down into the story, the characters, the meat and potatoes of what's going on.
Yeah, and we pick up with several different characters who we haven't seen all that much of, which I did think was kind of cool, right? You might have wondered, what's the significance of these Mitchum brothers, or, right?
Yeah, or even
Richard
just
Horne,
Miriam, or some of the other
Right,
characters
yeah.
that have popped in, but not only do they all come back in episode 10, but they all come back as important parts of the story unfolding.
Right. I mean, I think if anything, people might have watched this and been a little disappointed that we weren't spending more time with other characters like Mr. C or whatever, right? Because we spend so much time with these characters that we're maybe a bit less familiar with. But ultimately, I think it was an enjoyable episode.
I think this episode might have felt a little bit like excerpts that should have gone in other places kind of amalgamated together, but at the same time, I thought that it really worked to get me back to answer a bunch of questions that I had.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely could see someone making that suggestion that this should have been more interspersed, like these scenes should have been more, in between other things that are more related to the main plot, if you will. But I think it was basically fine.
So it sure started with a bang.
Yeah,
and the first thing that we
literally
get is Richard Horne visiting Miriam, right?
Yeah, and Richard Horne is confronting Miriam. I'm surprised here that I seem to have almost kind of predicted something in Twin Peaks. Because I don't know, does he kill her? I guess she's not quite dead.
She's not dead. We do see that she's got an awful blow to the head, which was either getting hit or I thought maybe a muted gunshot even. But there's a lot of blood. You can tell that she's still breathing, but he set one of these classic kind of noir detective story bad guy maneuvers.
Right, oven's open.
The oven's open and there's a
lit.
candle exposed.
Yeah, so of course he also broke the window to get in, or the door, the window and the door to break in. We also learn from Miriam, she says she has told the police that she saw Richard run over the little boy and that she sent a letter.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is, he doubts this for a second or wonders, what's the validity of her claim before rushing her trailer.
Yeah.
And just in him doing it, I thought was a pretty scary moment. It's,
cracks
she's
his neck.
In that moment, there's a little confrontation back and forth. There's also this really great shot where you can see his reflection in her
that was
trailer
creepy.
door. So you can basically barely make Miriam out, but you know that she's there more or less defenseless, not protected by much with that door on her trailer.
Right, and he asks her if she told anyone else about this, and she says no, she told the police, and she doesn't know why he hasn't been arrested. Okay, so then she sent a letter, so I guess it's been a few days, I would guess.
And he says, did you send that letter today, did you? And she's actually confirming, giving him more information about it.
She says last night she dropped it in the mail, I think. Something like that. The other thing I thought was interesting and kind of cool was, again, we don't actually see the action, right? We stay outside the trailer and just sort of hear him attacking her. And that did remind me a little bit of that previous scene with the truck owner guy.
Right.
And the way that we cut back to the open door to his house without knowing, just kind of feeling like...
Yeah, we're seeing more here, but it is kind of like hiding the action itself and letting us fill in the blanks.
Right, we do ultimately go inside here and see Miriam lying there with her blood and all of that, right? But, we don't see the trailer explode or anything. I half expected that to happen.
I felt like they left it open, like there could be a cliffhanger saving grace. Hawk might show up at the last minute and blow that candle out or something.
Right.
But it really got me thinking how much I hate Richard Horne, of course.
Oh, man.
The last thing we saw with Miriam was being so sweet at the Double R Diner.
Oh,
and then she witnesses this awful thing. She's trying to do what's right. But also she's living out in the middle of nowhere. There's no one there. She's defenseless again. Yeah. And he pulls up and he basically is an evil MF, right? He's coming in and he's going to erase any evidence of his wrongdoing.
Yeah, and I do tend towards thinking this is another example in Twin Peaks of kind of just ordinary human evil. At least we don't have any definite indications that it's more than that at this point.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. In other examples, you get like, oh, well, this is an awful person doing awful things, but they might have had a demon or a spirit inside them. With Richard Horne, it just feels like, you bastard, you spoiled rotten, somehow... he's just an evil human being.
Yeah, which, I mean, there were any number of examples of that in the original run. I mean, from Jean Reno to Leo. Yeah, Leo. We're going to talk about Leo a little bit more here in a minute. But so then we get Richard calling up our favorite cop, Chad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he calls Chad and he says, Chad, you better intercept this letter. Chad says something along the lines of, well, that's not going to be easy. And he calls Chad a pussy and says, basically threatening Chad.
He is, yeah. And we already knew, we saw in the previous scene in the Roadhouse, him giving money to Chad. So we already basically knew Chad was dirty and there was a relationship there.
Yeah.
The extent of it, though, is becoming even more evident now that he's saying, oh, well, I just killed Miriam, basically, and I need you to get that letter.
Right.
Fucker.
Yeah.
And, so we get that reiteration of their complicity.
There's also one other thing in this very first scene that kind of caught my eye was the use of color.
Yeah.
So we've got the nice little green trailer that Miriam lives in. It's, of course, surrounded by green grass and the hills there with the evergreens. And then when Richard pulls up, he's in kind of a beat-up car that has more, like 3 different color paneling.
Kind of missing part of the bumper.
Yeah, like a Frankenstein car.
Interesting. Yeah.
And I thought this is interesting about the character, too, because before we saw him borrowing somebody's truck to go meet Red.
Yeah.
And yet we know that he's got money and comes from a rich family.
Yeah.
So what is with Richard Horne not having his own car? Or, and he's a user, right? He's just using everybody else's vehicles all the time.
I mean, I guess, but also, I mean, besides his family, he's a drug dealer, right?
Yeah.
So shouldn't he have money?
Yeah.
I mean, I would have thought he had all that money to give to Chad.
Yeah.
Yeah, so definitely noteworthy that he's driving this shitty little lemon of a car.
Yeah, and I thought to myself, did he just steal that so he won't be recognized, or is this some other person indebted to him that he's just using their car, like the truck?
Who knows?
But it did catch my eye, and you could tell that Lynch and whoever's doing art design got together and had a specific conversation of what that car should look like.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was worth mentioning because the level of attention to detail in this show is really great.
Yeah, definitely it's intentional that he's driving a car like that.
Yeah, so I feel like you can pause this show on any frame and come up with an hour conversation about a certain prop piece or
practically
whatever it is that they've spent time choosing and refining into the show.
Yeah, so it wasn't clear to me entirely whether Miriam lives in the Fat Trout trailer park, but we do go there next.
Yeah, so there's a transition that goes there. I really got the feeling that she does not because it's out in the middle of nowhere. There's the foothills she's right at the foothills there.
Yeah.
Or the base of the mountain. And there's a big barn there, and it seems like open fields. Whereas when we cut away, we go to Fat Trout and we see Harry Dean Stanton playing his guitar, and that does look more like a traditional trailer park, just end-to-end trailers lined up.
Yeah, I'm with you. I just thought it was a trailer, and now we're in the trailer park. But yeah, what did you think of this song Carl Rod's singing?
So it's great to see, first of all, Carl Rod, Harry Dean Stanton. There's a kind of a duality, I think, just with Harry Dean and Carl Rod, where it's great to see the character, but you can't deny, like, oh my God, Harry Dean's back on camera now. I love these moments
really
with him. And I think a little bit of, or maybe a lot of the real-life Harry Dean Stanton is coming out through this character. And at that age and with that long of a tradition of working with Lynch and just being kind of an iconic American actor, I think that they're playing off of this really well. So here we get him playing guitar and singing Red River Valley.
Right, Red River Valley is sort of just an old standard of a song.
It's like kind of an old cowboy song. It's definitely Americana. From what I've looked up a little bit about it, it is about kind of the lovelorn longing of a young lady who's singing for her soldier love who is going back to battle in the East or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But it is also very sweet moment where we get Harry Dean just softly playing the blues, old cowboy song. He's basically the closest thing we know to being a cowboy these days. And he's sitting in the Fat Trout trailer park singing it, and it's also building up to be a juxtaposition of what we're about to catch next.
Right, so of course it's disrupted by this mug through the window.
Yeah, which actually kind of scared me. I was startled at the sound design of this. Again, Lynch doing sound design.
Right,
You hear the thump, you hear the glass shatter, and it's just the bright red of the mug's color. It's startling.
Kind of out of nowhere. And of course it startles Carl Rod as well. He sort of stops his song. And then what does he say? Something like it's
would say like fucking nightmare or something
fucking
like that.
Nightmare or something like that.
And he's, of course, referring to what's going on inside that trailer, which is his neighbors, which he knows, which is Betty and Steven.
Becky and Steven are in the trailer, yeah. So we return to Steven and Becky Burnett after the mug and get a really disturbing scene of domestic violence here, I thought.
Yeah.
Steven seems wigged out. I mean, just seems... the drugs seem to have taken some toll, I thought, based on how he
definitely looks like he's withdrawing or ODing from something, more probably withdrawing from this Chinese designer drug that he's been on, right? Which, from what we've seen before, it most likely resembles cocaine.
Yeah.
But he's also got like some slobbering, snotty kind of nose action happening, which is really gross.
Yeah, it's pretty gross. And Becky is just sort of cowering as he yells at her about how much money she makes.
Yeah, well, I think he sets it up saying, well, did you ask for a raise or something that she asked him? And he says, I've never asked you that. What do you do anyway? How do you make money?
Yeah.
Somewhere in here he slips saying, I know exactly what you did, which might be a reference.
That was the thing that really stuck out to me ultimately is, what's he talking about? What did she do?
Yeah.
I mean, of course, he's being a crazy, belligerent, abusive husband.
Right.
But,
he could be imagining something in there, or he could be referring back to something that was a specific point of contention.
Even if he's delusional, what is he delusionally thinking that she did, And, of course, this got me thinking about Shelley and Leo.
Yeah, because this is Shelley's daughter, and we did see previously where Shelley's friends and her are talking, and Shelley herself has admitted that her daughter's with kind of a bad guy, kind of the wrong guy.
Yeah, and although Shelley's friends in that earlier episode say, "Oh, everyone likes Steven," or something like that.
Yeah, they kind of excuse him. Although Norma, who is Shelley's go-to for authority and basically sit-in mom,
Norma can see it.
Norma can see it all.
But
and of course, Norma's been through this as well
with Hank.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's really with Shelley and Leo that we got some scenes that bear some resemblance to this. I mean, Leo beat her and so on and so forth. But this scene with Steven and Becky struck me as a couple notches darker.
Yeah.
I mean, when Leo was yelling at Shelley about, you smoke one kind of cigarettes from now on or something, it was sort of so overblown that I could find a little humor in the way it was done. Whereas here it was just dark.
It was realistic, dark domestic violence. He's threatening punching her in the face.
Yeah.
There was a moment he reminds me of Frank Booth where he says, don't you fucking look or something, right? Where he almost starts the line telling her not to look at him or not to talk to him or whatever he's saying there. But
don't make that face at me or whatever, right?
Yeah. And I really felt after the tone of this episode is set with Richard Horne murdering Miriam, by the time when you get to this scene, there's definitely something in this episode about domestic violence and about the abuse of women.
Oh, definitely. And I mean, really, it struck me, Steven seems like such a terrible person here that even in contrast to Richard Horne, or if we're comparing the two,
right?
Like, I don't, at a certain level, almost know which one I feel worse about.
Right.
I mean, clearly Richard's the one who's killing people, but still, they both seem to be pretty despicable human beings.
Right.
Yeah.
And also that, through Carl Rod playing the guitar saying fucking nightmare, he knows. Yeah. First of all, there's a little subtext that there might be, like, again, dream logic or something happening when he says, oh, they're stuck in a nightmare. And you don't know how literal to take that. But also you get the idea that this happens all the time. He's used to it. This is domestic violence from them again.
Yeah, that's the sort of mundane reading. Like, it's a fucking nightmare that I've got to deal with this couple here, and the whole thing with domestic violence cases where even if you were to go to the cops, if she doesn't want to go to the cops, you're not really going to be able to go to the cops, so even as being in Carl Rod's position, there's a difficulty about what you could do there, right?
Yeah.
If Becky doesn't want to do something about it through the authorities,
right,
you're kind of stuck, right?
And this, again, like you're bringing up Shelley and Leo and then Hank and Norma, this is third generation domestic abuse being carried on.
Yeah.
And really, I think the more that this happens throughout the show and the more I analyze this, the more the dark underbelly of Twin Peaks and all the violence and all the hatred that exists amongst these characters we love is sort of coming up and bubbling over now.
Yeah, and if anything, we're seeing more of the darkness than the light or the surface in this new run. So is there something going on here thematically about that, right? That just we're not getting so much of the kind of quirky, wholesome Twin Peaks veneer. We're getting much more of the dark underbelly for the most part, I think.
For the most part, I agree. And even in moments like transitioning us back to Las Vegas, where we're in Rodney's loft, there are these moments that are definitely dark moments, but are somehow pulled off like with this humor, like a gag.
Yeah, there's levity here, right? Yeah. So we're talking about Candy going after the fly now.
Candy going after the fly.
Really doing a poor job of it.
Yeah, but there's something it's like a dance, and I can see Lynch directing the scene and just really loving how she looks and the kind of motion in the frame.
But at first, isn't she using a handkerchief or something?
She's using a handkerchief.
That doesn't make any sense. That's not going to work, Candy.
Yeah, that doesn't work. She hasn't thought this fully through. But also, again, with the duality of props, now that we're talking, in the previous scene, we saw a red mug being thrown through the window.
Right.
That reminded me of the red mug that the detectives Fusco used to get Dougie's DNA.
Yes.
And they threw that in the evidence bag. And so there's 2 red mugs. The previous episode, we also saw a red object when Andy and Lucy are debating the chair they want to buy.
The red chair.
They settle on the red chair, and then like a scene or two after that, we see Major Briggs has hidden something for Truman, Hawk, and Bobby inside the red chair in their home.
Right. Lots of red objects.
And so now I actually am kind of tuned into when I see a red object, I think, is there another one of those? And now with this red hanky, there is actually another red hanky.
Oh, Mr. C's red handkerchief.
Yeah, Mr. C finds as a signal when he's approaching this farm that could be in Mexico maybe or somewhere.
I don't think they're in Mexico. That would be quite a drive from South Dakota.
It would be, but the reason I'm saying that is because in this episode, as we'll get to later.
Yeah, I know what you're referring to.
But you don't think they're in Mexico?
No, don't think they're in Mexico at all.
I see. So, but then there's this duality of these props even. So it did make me think of the red hanky. But it's a really playful scene when she's trying to hit this fly. At one point, she swings the hanky and it disappears off of the frame so quickly, and she holds her hands up like, okay, now I'm going to get you with my hands.
Which is the best plan.
And I was rolling. That was hilarious to me. It was almost like a Las Vegas showmanship kind of thing.
And the whole time Rodney Mitchum is just sitting there looking at the surveillance logs from the casino.
Yeah, and he's checking them off for something. He's watching for somebody.
Totally impassive. Just not paying any attention to Candy.
Yeah. So this whole scene turns into a classic, what could be like a W.C. Fields bit or something that I'm sure I've seen this before, where there's a fly flying around, it lands on somebody's face, wham! It's like a Bugs Bunny moment, right?
Yeah.
So it's hilarious to me that they're playing kind of this very common kind of motif in the comedy world.
Yeah, because, I mean, then when, you kind of see it coming, right? As soon as the remote control comes into focus.
Yeah.
And she's going to pick it up. Like, oh, man, she's going to hit him across the face with that thing.
And you know it's going to happen. And she does a really great job where the fly's landing on and off, and she's following it and then back, But there might be something here, too, as we, from the very first episode, have said, oh, you're going to watch a glass box until something happens. Huh? I felt like from the very beginning, we've kind of identified that there's a critique of television.
Yeah.
Not only in its content and its conception by people that make TV shows, but by the technology itself and how that's changed. And so in this moment, just, the TV's on, she grabs this remote, which, the remotes have gotten so huge now that it is like a club.
It's a weapon.
And it's flat on one side, and it becomes a weapon that she smacks him with.
Yeah.
But
And, I mean, it was just really humorous. And then the aftermath, too, where she starts crying, and the other Mitchum brother, Bradley, Jim Belushi's
Brad rushes in like, oh, what's going on? What happened?
And that whole thing. Yeah, really humorous and bizarre, right? As I say, I mean, she's choosing bad tools.
Yes.
For the job of swatting a fly.
And she's so sorry, and she instantly regrets, and she's tearing up. And then when she sees the wound that she's created, she freaks out even more. Yeah. And it reaches like a fever pitch.
Well, and then I think it's a little bit later, but she's still upset, and she's so inconsolable that one of the other girls, I'm not sure if it's Sandy or Mandy. I'm sorry, those are their names.
Yeah, Sandy, Mandy, and Candy, right? Tries to console her.
With like a martini.
Yeah, and she refuses it.
Yeah, just the refusal of
totally
the martini.
inconsolable.
That's not going to make it better this time. Usually maybe it would, but not this time.
Yeah. And it does bring up this whole relationship. So you're 2 Las Vegas casino owner, possible gangster types, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you have 3 gorgeous, what normally would be like gangster malls / your showgirl.
Right.
But they're sort of your assistants also.
It seems like it.
You like to keep them around because they're gorgeous, but they do your bidding. But they're always dressed as if they're performing.
Yeah.
Like they're your entertainment or something. And so that brings up the nature of this relationship being one where they're kind of bribed and blackmailed at the same time into this allegiance to these brothers, right?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely feels a bit exploitative, if that's what you mean.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like this unfolds with her, what would you say, like a Freudian slip, or subconsciously wanting to just bash this guy right in the face.
Maybe.
But carrying it out through, like, looking for this fly.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, her being so upset afterward that she might have threatened this person.
Right.
You wonder how much of it is Stockholm Syndrome or something,
Yeah, sure.
And so I just kind of got that idea of, like, okay, what is really the nature of this relationship with these three ladies? Are they terrified of these guys?
Yeah, it's really a question also in my mind because so much focus seems to be put on Candy in this episode as opposed to the other two, right? That's why I'm struggling even to be sure which one is which or which one offers her the martini.
Yeah.
Because I don't think either of them talks.
Yeah.
Right? They're just sort of there. They are in the credits, though.
And when they're always posed inside their office room, the security room, Candy is always in the middle.
Yeah.
So it makes you, and they're always kind of got a very similar pose going on. They've got like a memorized pose.
I found myself almost starting to wonder whether the other two even really exist at one point.
Right.
I mean, that they're doing stuff, they're making drinks and so on and so forth. But part of me just started wondering. I don't know. I guess because it's Lynch, because it's Twin Peaks. Part of me started wondering: are there really three girls?
Yeah, and all their names are very, very similar, minus the letters in the beginning. So this takes us to an interior doctor's office, and this is a scene that actually has been hinted at over the last few episodes that Janie E. might finally take Dougie to the doctor.
Right, so we're finally seeing Dr. Ben.
Dr. Ben.
Yeah. And, I don't know how much there is in this scene other than the fact that Dougie Coop seems to be in perfect health.
Yeah. His heart and his lungs sound great. He's lost a lot of weight for good.
Yeah.
They say.
Looking good.
Kyle. Janie E. sits there in the office kind of ranting about all the troubles they've had while the doctor kind of takes his shirt off and then goes to check his heart and kind of notices right away, like, whoa, Dougie, you been working out? Or, And then, of course, this is the moment where we see Kyle MacLachlan 25 years later as an actor. Can he come through as the tough cop and get in good shape again and all this? And, well, yes, the answer is yes.
All right.
And to see Janie E. kind of realize it is a great, like, kind of the epiphany moment.
Man, my husband's ripped now.
Yeah. And so the doctor at some point, as he's examining Dougie, says that it's kind of remarkable. And we end the scene with Janie E. even saying, like, remarkable. Yeah. But there's a strange way that she says it, right, where she's maybe accepting or starting to realize, like, maybe this is not her husband, but at the same time weighing out, like, well, this is a better arrangement. Or something's awry, right? What do you think about that?
Something feels a little bit weird. I mean, I agree that this does seem to me where we get going on Janie E.'s kind of newfound lust for Dougie.
Yeah.
Right. And something about how that all played out felt a little bizarre to me, given what we know of her character prior to this. It seemed maybe a little out of nowhere. I don't know how quite to put what I'm thinking, but your suggestion's interesting. That maybe she's kind of gathering that this is not the same being as her husband.
Yeah, I'm wondering if there's going to be a click moment where she's going to say, "Hey, wait a minute, you're not Dougie at all," kind of thing. You know? And if things have been going the way they have been going, maybe the new Dougie is much better.
Yeah.
So, but there's a couple of things in this scene that just kind of piqued my interest, just because they're intriguing. And one of those is the word peculiar. Mm-hmm. So the doctor says this, and then, Dougie repeats it in a very strange way. And it seems like part of his vocabulary from previous FBI life when he would say, something is peculiar here.
I guess.
So that triggers something in him. Anytime he said something that repeats like that, I kind of figure, this is part of his assembling Cooper again. And then the other thing is, while he's getting his blood pressure checked, there's the pneumatic blood pressure check device on his arm. Yeah. And he kind of he imitates it. He's like mimicking the pneumatics of it. Yeah. Where he's blowing out of his mouth with the same kind of pumping air, whooshing air. So I love that Dougie is still so innocent and so enthralled with just the basic simple stuff like the clapper on the lamp in his son's room. And now we see Janie E. kind of reassessing who he is. And we see through her eyes that she's, like you said a second ago, she's kind of falling in love with him again.
Yeah. I also wondered in this scene whether he was going to find a scar from his bullet wound, I don't know if you thought of this.
Oh, I did not think of that. That's interesting, yeah.
But that didn't happen.
That did not happen. Right.
But I wondered if that might come up with that in the back of my mind. We were recently thinking about how Mr. C was shot in the same place as Cooper in the original run and so on and so forth. So does this Cooper, Dougie, have a scar there?
Yeah, that's interesting.
I mean, I guess it's possible.
Right.
It could just heal up. I don't know if you always get scars.
Or as we learned from the last episode, he's been in some car accident not that long ago. That I was just wondering if we were going to get some evidence of that, but none of that was mentioned.
No, none of that.
This is Intercut taking us back into the Vegas loft again, where you mentioned where we see Candy again, and she's inconsolable.
Yeah.
She's crying, and she's wondering, if she'll ever be forgiven. But it really seems like she's the one with the problem, that Bradley... and
Rodney, they were both like, get over it.
Yeah, they're over it already. So you smack me in the face looking for a fly, big deal. But she's really like disturbed by it, saying things like, how will you ever love me again after what I've done?
Yeah.
And so again, this brings up in my mind kind of this, is this a codependency, or what kind of relationship do they have?
Right, but I thought the really important bit of this scene is that they turn on the news report, right?
Yes.
Right, and the Mitchums knew who Ike was.
Yeah.
Right. You get this great line of remind me to call off that hit on Ike.
Yeah.
Right, we're going to save a bunch of money.
Yep.
That was cool.
Yep. And the little through the air high five.
Yeah.
Save a
like
whack ton of money.
Bump across the room.
Or something like that.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. That was great.
And this is, of course, local news, and this is what set me off laughing, is how this begins, where it's Vegas news, right? And they show that they're rolling the dice on the news. And it's gambling time on the news, and then the announcer, of course, says, "Oh, we rolled this number. It means it's local news."
Right, which, of course, is totally contrived, you presume.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But I was on the floor laughing at that. And then to get, back to what you're saying, this leads us to some more exposition. Mm-hmm. So we understand that these guys know who Ike the Spike is.
Yeah.
And they're happy that he's kind of not around anymore, right?
So they're happy that Ike's not around anymore. That's noteworthy. Mm-hmm. And then it's also noteworthy that the news coverage goes into Dougie and Janie E. And the attack of Ike on them.
Right.
Remembering here that the Mitchums are familiar with Dougie already because of the Mr. Jackpots thing.
Yes, and they point that out. They say, this is our Mr. Jackpots.
Yeah, they do. So, of course, from their perspective, they've been thinking that this guy pulled off some scheme to, defraud their casino.
Right.
Right? I mean, what else are you going to think?
And has now taken down a known assassin where witnesses were saying, oh, no, he was not a victim at all. He knew exactly what he was doing.
Yeah.
So they're this is getting them to think a little bit more on who Mr. Jackpots is.
Right, and then this good line of, it turns out our Mr. Jones actually is Mr. Jones.
Yeah.
What a fucking world.
Yeah.
Which I read, I don't know about you, but I sort of read as maybe they were thinking this was an alias, right? Like you call yourself Jones or Smith or something like that as a fake name.
That's kind of how I took it, yeah.
Like,
John Doe or something.
Yeah, no, he's actually Douglas Jones.
He is actually D. Jones. Yeah, that's interesting. And then the other thing that we do see on the news broadcast is a little bit more exposition from Janie E. describing in that moment what had happened. And in my mind, I thought this was really interesting because we never saw that full part of what she said the first time around.
Right.
But I really played the rest of what she said, which I've just seen in this episode.
Yeah.
I had played that in my head afterward because it was such a cool moment.
Right.
And so I thought there was a weird thing happening there.
That's interesting.
Where she's like actually swinging and saying, "Oh, taking care of business, Dougie."
And I love how during that Dougie keeps reaching for the cop's badge.
Yeah, and he's still and she's just correcting him.
So no, Dougie.
Yes,
right in the middle of her spiel.
So funny. But this leads us into basically Janie E. again, like in the doctor's office, kind of looking at Dougie with new eyes.
Oh
right?
Yeah, and she's really into him all of a sudden.
She's into him.
Right?
So the very next scene we get is back at Dougie's house.
And this hilarious scene, he's eating cake.
I love this scene too. This is great. And she's kind of like leaning against the wall, but you can tell she's got dreamy eyes about him, and she's flirting with him a little bit.
Right, even the way it starts with her feet kind of clenching.
Yeah. The red shoes, which caught his eyes in a police station previously with the lady walking by with the red pumps. So again, red prop, is there another version of it? Here we get red shoes again.
It's repeating again. But so then she says, are you attracted to me, Dougie, or whatever. Like
he completely ignores, goes back to his cake.
She's trying to seduce him, and he's just enjoying his cake. And you can hear him. I think
it's like one of the most unattractive moments, just stuffing sweets into your mouth.
Yeah, so this whole thing, I mean, I thought it was all a bit odd.
Yeah.
just the way that it played, because ultimately then it culminates in this really loud sex, or at least loud on her part.
Yeah.
She's yelling, Dougie, Dougie, Dougie.
So, yeah, so much that it wakes Sonny Jim up.
Yeah, wakes him up or startles him, at least.
Yeah.
But he's in the house. That was one thing I was thinking here, is it seemed a little out of character to me, I thought, for Janie E. to be yelling Dougie so loud with Sonny Jim in the house.
Yeah, and by the Sonny Jim's expression, you feel that he's never heard that before.
Right. I mean, it's one thing to get caught up in like loud moaning during sex or something, but she's saying his name. Right, she's yelling his name,
and
which is even more
starts soft,
intentional.
and then it gets
right?
to the point where she's yelling it, and then it gets to the point where she kind of like holds on the E part of it, Dougie.
Yeah. And his arms are just flopping on
his arms flopping is hilarious, and of course you get the smile. But I got the sense that this was the first orgasm that she had with Dougie, right?
Maybe, yeah.
And so thus the screaming and the like, wow, this has never happened.
It's also, maybe part of why it felt weird to me is because Dougie's character has remained so kind of childlike.
Yeah.
I don't know what the ethics are here exactly, actually.
Right.
In terms of consent and things like that.
Well, that didn't really cross my mind as much as just not speaking up, not being full of hot air and constantly talking. Dougie is like the silent, reserved, almost John Wayne character, right? Where when he says something, it's an important thing.
Yeah.
But you're right. There's something to be said of that, how now she, for the first time, sees he's in good shape, and she's kind of sexualizing him.
Just a little strangeness. I mean, it is apparently, from Janie E's point of view, this is her husband of however many years, and they have a kid who is, what would you say, 12? Are we ever told? I
Probably
don't think we're told.
Younger than that, but yeah, maybe in that zone. I was thinking
zone, 10,
8,
11.
9,
Okay, so
if that.
Between 8 and 12?
Yeah.
We're not told, although we are told that they were planning his birthday party for 6 months. I also thought that was weird.
Yeah, that was weird.
Who plans a kid's birthday party for 6 months?
Right, and it didn't seem like a huge rager at the end of the day.
Right, indeed, yeah.
They had some balloons up on the wall.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought that was kind of bizarre. But again, I guess from Janie's perspective, this is her husband, and so she's physically attracted to him. He's sort of ripped now. That's cool. And maybe she's also attracted to him because he seems a bit sweeter, maybe also because of the way he took down like the spike and so on and so forth. So it's like, okay.
And so this culminates in this moment of them consummating their relationship, even as a new Dougie. Yeah. So this maybe is the first time that they have made love, possibly the first time she's reached orgasm with him.
Yeah.
And in the end, we get this really beautiful and sweet golden light shot where they're just kind of cuddling together after sex. She says, "You know what, Dougie? I love you."
And he repeats, "Love you."
And he repeats, "Love you." And it's just so sweet. And it is, again, makes you question a little bit because he's only doing things that are repeating. One of these characters that just gives you back the same energy you give them, And so in that sense, he's kind of like angelic or something where...
He did have a big smile on his face during the sex.
Yes, and that was great. The arms flopping and the smile on his face. I was thinking, when else have we seen him smile? And it might just be Sex and Coffee at this point.
Yeah, when he drinks the coffee, he smiles and says, "Hi."
And somebody else pointed out actually that when he does drink that coffee from several episodes back and says hi, that's the first, I think, thing that he says of his own volition that is not repeating what somebody else says.
It still might be the only time, even, I think.
Because pretty much everything else is just repeating what he's immediately heard. And so in that moment, you get kind of a sentience through the coffee. And then again, this is big smile, and I just thought it was such a relaxing, beautiful shot. And, of course, Naomi Watts and just all of her glory.
Yeah.
You can see this is a culmination of David Lynch's career itself, using some of his favorite actors to work with. And jumping into kind of the psychology of two people that seem on the outside very simple, but guess what? It goes way deep and it's way complex.
Yeah.
And so I really love that. It was just such an amazing and beautiful scene. So we get the "I love you." Then we see a little transition for a minute, which is the trees in the darkness blowing in the wind.
Right.
Which I always feel takes us back to Twin Peaks.
Yep.
And then from this transition, we get back to Dr. Jacoby and his trailer.
Yeah, I was a little surprised we returned to Dr. Amp's show again here,
Yeah,
right?
it's 7 o'clock. Where's your freedom at?
The fucks are at it again.
Yeah, and he's got the Liberty lamp, or the, what is it called? The Statue of Liberty lamp that's behind him.
Yeah, whatever it is. And mostly we're getting similar stuff here. Ranting about the food.
I love the analogy he's using in this one, though, right? He's gone to sheep.
Yeah.
And we're all sheep, which is something you hear commonly, sheeple and...
Right, but he's using it with the wool metaphor, right?
Exactly.
Like we're growing our wool, and they just come along and shave it off of us.
They shear it off of us. No wool for us.
Yeah.
And then so we're left in the cold, and we get sick. Yeah. And then guess what? They own the pharmaceutical companies and the hospitals. And the mortuaries and the embalming fluid even. The cemeteries, so everything is the bad guy after that.
Right. We see that Nadine is tuned in yet again.
And
she
so we know she's
a
fan.
True fan.
Yeah.
Because we ultimately see her shop.
Yes.
Which has a golden shovel in the window.
Yes.
Let's mention that first.
Yes.
Okay. But her shop is called...
Run Silent, Run Drapes.
Yeah. Silent Drape Runners.
Silent Drape Runners. This is from the original series and was kind of co-invented. Now, we know Nadine was looking to invent something and to kind of shore up her family's name and such.
Do this anyway, I think, and then Ed accidentally spilled some oil on her.
Yeah, Ed comes in all greasy with his engine oil, and he drips some on her cotton balls, and she gets furious at first.
Yeah.
But then later comes up and says, Ed, you did it. You've helped me.
I'm wondering. And then when she comes to in the very last episode, one of the first things she says is, "Where are my drape runners?"
Yeah, so she's still on. This has been a big thing in Nadine's life, and now's the moment when we find out, guess what? She was successful with that venture.
Apparently. I do wonder if it got technologically more advanced at some point, or if it's still cotton balls and engine oil.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if it's 25 years later or whatever, then apparently this worked.
Well, the other thing is that she's showing them off, and what's great is there's this mechanistic running of the drapes happening in her showroom, a window. She's also got a golden shovel hanging there because she's obviously paid the $29.99 to buy one of Jacoby's shovels.
Dug herself out of the shit.
And she dug herself out of the shit, and it totally feels that way. But just seeing the shovel there is covered up and then unveiled again over and over again in her show. Like if you were sitting outside of Nadine's shop, you would just constantly see a loop of these dark-colored curtains hiding the shovel and then revealing the shovel again.
And the name of the shop seems to be a clear play on words. And we were talking about this old book/film, Run Silent, Run Deep, which might be the source here, right? About World War II and submarines running silently and things like that.
Right, and you, I think, looked it up, and we discovered that there's a character named Laura as the love interest or something in the book.
Yeah, there's a character named Laura in the book. It was written in 1955.
But it's a submarine kind of noir
World War
spy
II
story kind of thing.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
And the idea being that there's a term, silent running, is when a submarine turns everything off so it can't be detected, I guess.
Yeah. So I guess that's probably what the play on words here is, I think. Yeah.
I see. So a couple connections worth noting. Another thing that we see in this scene is that Nadine is drinking from what seems to be some pink-colored beverage, maybe a health drink or some concoction.
I was imagining it was one of these health shakes or something.
And so it might be something Jacoby has recommended. I know at some point in his first show, he said that there was some sort of, I forget what it was,
huckleberry or something like that.
And that had me wondering, does she have a huckleberry extract drink? Yeah. That acai shit.
Yeah, so I wonder if it was... Yeah, we don't know, right?
But I did get the feeling. And she also, while drinking this and while watching his show, she says to herself something along the lines of, he's so beautiful. Yeah. And so she's enamored, and Dr. Jacoby is a spellcaster, more or less, now. We've seen Jerry Horn also tuning in. Yeah, and so I get this idea that he's kind of, through his golden shovels, he's kind of Willy Wonka of the Twin Peaks town, that kind of scenario.
Yeah, and Jerry's not listening this time, though. We do briefly see Jerry coming up here, right? I was watching for Jerry, waiting for Jerry, and the continuing saga in the woods. It's pretty brief, right?
Yeah, the last time we saw him, his foot is talking to him and saying, "I am not your foot."
Right.
And we had the idea that he's either super high, because he did say, "I think I'm high," or... wait a minute, he might be standing at the coordinates. He might have one foot in another dimension.
And I'm definitely
in a very real
starting
way.
to think of that it is the latter for a couple of reasons.
Yeah.
Because, for one thing, we've been returning to Jerry in more or less the same spot for a few episodes now.
Right, and I think outside of visiting Ben, the very first episode, this is the only environment we've seen him in.
Yeah, so what is his relation to time at this point?
Mm-hmm.
I am starting to think that he might be kind of outside of time or something. His cell phone seems to still have battery, but no signal.
Well, the first time we see him in this episode, I think they gave you a minute because he's kind of camouflaged, wearing this kind of camo print. And they gave it half a second of a beat just where you sort of think you're looking at the forest empty. Yeah. And then he does this jerky move where he throws his phone up and holding it up into the air above his head. Yeah. And then we see it says no signal.
Right.
And I got the impression that he's like testing the boundaries of where the cell communication ends.
Maybe.
When you're entering the zone.
Maybe. And he says, you can't fool me. I've been here before.
I've been here before. Right.
Was he talking to his foot? I kind of felt like he maybe was.
Yeah.
He's kind of bent over.
Or just screaming into the zone saying,
yeah.
You know, and of course we know that there's Ben and Jerry and a lot of the other Twin Peaks locals have probably heard the rustling of the, talk about Cooper and the Black Lodge and Wyndham Earl. They've all lived in this small community where they must have been talking about all this weird stuff.
Any number of people have had weird experiences in these woods. Yeah, I definitely think that he's at a significant place in the woods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I really love seeing Jerry Horn and trying to figure out what's going on with him with all this. And I feel like at some point we're going to get another version of Jerry. I feel like he'll come in and out of the zone and he'll be all cleaned up and then suddenly he'll be back to business with Ben or I don't know why I think that.
I hope not.
But there's something going on with Jerry that just from the original show where he was out and about messing things up and then all of a sudden he was back with another business deal.
Yeah.
And he was on his game.
No, I'd prefer if it turned out that actually in the original run, Jerry was never in Paris or wherever he was supposed to be, but was always just like in some lodge space or something.
Yeah, I could see that.
But yeah, I'm really enjoying what they're doing with Jerry this season, so looking forward to more on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So right before the scene with the forest, we get just a very quick scene where we see the next morning with Janie E. and Dougie, and she's taking him to work, and it's just basically pulling him aside and saying, I can't stop thinking about last night.
Yeah.
And
I'll
really,
always remember that night, even.
Yeah, it reminded me of that, of, Mr. C and Diane talking about a specific night that can't be forgotten. So this is her saying, that it was wonderful, and he again repeats wonderful.
Yeah, so, and also it was noteworthy to me that she's still all lovey-dovey the next morning, because, I don't know, one of the things I was thinking about during all of this with Janie E. all of a sudden being so loving or lustful towards Dougie, I was thinking about that scene in the diner in the season finale of season 2.
Yeah.
Where all of a sudden everyone was really lovey-dovey and it was kind of weird.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a connection, but regardless, what's going on with Janie E. and Dougie, it's carrying over the next day, right? She's still really lovey-dovey that next morning.
Right. I think that was the part of why they would have this in there, that it's, and also in general, there's the whole, being sexually attracted to somebody physically, and then the next morning maybe feelings change.
Yeah,
and this is one of those
sure.
admitting, like, wait, no, it's not that. There's something deeper going on here. She's really in love with her own husband.
Wow.
Which is like, how interesting is that that's something to be a wow moment when you would take it for granted. Oh, you should be in love with your husband. But actually, this again goes back to the thing I'm always thinking about David Lynch, where everybody's like, oh, it's so weird. And I always kind of feel like, no, that's the thing, is what you think is reality is weird.
Yeah.
When you're actually confronted with real reality, you notice, oh, that's how it is. And you say it's weird, but there's no other reference that's normal. Normal is weird.
Right.
And he's one of those artists that gets us to see that in a very special way, So, so then back to, still in Twin Peaks, we get a little visit to the sheriff's office.
Right. And our favorite cop, Chad.
Chad sure is my favorite cop.
Keep calling him that. Yeah.
Yeah, he is the best guy.
He is indeed.
So
really
we have
an
him
outstanding guy.
in this scene with Lucy where he's like, there's a little bit of banter, and he says, "Oh, what a beautiful day."
Oh, and
he's just basically insulting her and Andy to her face.
Right.
Saying along the lines of, I bet you and Andy wake up every morning and say, "Oh, what a beautiful day it is out there."
Oh, and also in this scene, I don't think we hit on this last time, but and hat tip to the internet for pointing this out.
Yeah.
The picture that Lucy has I don't know if we talked about this.
We didn't, but each time I see it, I say to myself, "Oh gosh, we should talk about that."
Yeah,
with Wally,
right?
The family portrait you're talking about,
right.
Andy, Lucy, and Wally.
But it actually almost looks like they taped their faces onto some stock photo.
I think that too. It's totally intentionally bad photoshopping.
Yeah.
I thought that, and I can't take that as anything other than just a nice little joke.
Yeah.
That they've put in there for the fans.
I think so, probably.
Because you know how projects do that. You'll get the actor will actually provide a younger picture of themselves to use in production, that kind of thing. That happens a lot, and it's a known thing. And I think somewhere along the line, somebody might have said, hey, let's make this really goofy. This is Lucy and Andy and their child.
Right.
So maybe they screwed up the portrait day and they themselves had to tape a picture of him on there.
Maybe, but it's amusing.
They realize, like, when he's 14 years old, they realize, like, you know what? We never took a family picture. Let's make one right now, Yeah,
because it's Michael Cera's face taped onto a much younger person.
Yeah. I love that. I thought that was hilarious.
Amazing.
And every time I see it, I think that we need to touch base about it. I'm glad we did.
Cool, yeah.
So, but, we have Chad just making fun of her right to her face, and she kind of goes along with it, maybe isn't too hip to that he's saying that.
Right.
And then he sees out the window that the mailman has showed up.
Yeah, and he says he's going to go out, and of course Lucy says, but he'll bring it in, and Chad's like, well, it's such a nice day.
Yeah, well, it's such a nice day. I'm going to go save him the trouble because I'm so nice.
He thinks he's playing this.
Yeah.
But Lucy's on to him.
Lucy's on to him. She's got her intuition, and also she's seen everything go down at this sheriff's office before.
Yeah.
And she's watchful. Yeah. And so she gets up and watches him as he goes outside.
Right, and she knows this is weird, what he's doing.
And another thing I caught is, so the mailman, who, as has been established, is used to coming inside and giving Lucy the mail, probably,
right,
is cut off at the pass, and he hands Chad the mail, and he watches Chad rifle through it.
Right.
And he kind of gives this weird look like he doesn't trust Chad either.
Right, and he's got more mail in his hand at that point.
Yeah, I think he's gearing up for whoever the next drop is.
One would presume. I think that's probably right. Although, given how Chad is acting and the look on the mailman's face, part of me did think, like, maybe there was more mail, and now he's thinking, I'm not going to give this to Chad. Chad's acting weird.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Probably not. As you say, it's probably for the next stop.
That was my impression, but I like the idea that it could have been some other thing happening.
I did also notice, this is probably nothing, but as I mentioned to you, the logo on the mail truck is like wrong. Yeah. And it might be, I guess, that they just didn't want to.
You mean it's not an eagle, or it's the stripes are different, or how do you mean?
It's an eagle, sort of, but it doesn't look like the logo for the United States Postal Service.
Okay.
And, I noticed it, and I did a Google image search, and I didn't see any logo that look just like this.
It's not a regional thing or changes per year or something?
I mean, I guess it could be regional or something. Again, I don't want to make too much of this.
But probably worth noting if there's like some difference.
Yeah, I probably just noticed it because of this weird job I used to have. But anyway, so what is this? Why, right? I mean, again, it might just be that they didn't want to go through the steps to get the permission.
Yeah, it could have been a production thing.
But even that seems a little odd to me. So I don't know, just something I noticed.
Especially something as ubiquitous as the USPS, right? So that brings up a couple questions.
Right, and it seems to me that looking at the USPS website on it or whatever, it seemed to me like the process is you fill out a couple of forms and that was about it.
Interesting,
right? Yeah. To get permission. So.
Well, the other thing I noticed from the mailman, though, in him kind of looking strangely at Chad, is that, and this was pointed out to me, is that, wow, does Chad fool anybody?
Yeah, right.
Like everybody knows Chad is kind of a douche. He's like everybody can look at Chad and say, oh, you're kind of like one of those guys, right?
Yeah. And we all know Chad, I think.
And the fact that you got to open the window after he's in the room, and the fact that now we see that he's getting dirtier and dirtier as each episode passes.
Well, and it's all tied up, that line in the earlier episode where he says something like, it's a free country, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's Chad. Yep. One line.
Yeah.
But maybe the most significant thing to point out in this scene is when Chad goes through the mail, he's looking for Miriam's letter, right?
Yes, right.
And he finds a letter that he pulls out. Now, the interesting thing is that on this letter that Chad pulls out, it says Miriam Hodges.
Hodges, okay.
But if you pay attention to the credits at the end of the episode, she is credited as Miriam Sullivan.
Ah, so is this a completely different Miriam? Did Chad get the wrong letter? Or
I don't know. I mean, he's a doofus, but I don't know what the other possibilities are. I mean, it could be something like maiden name, married name, or something like that, I suppose.
Yeah.
But it was striking to me, because I've been paying attention to the credits because we found other information there,
right,
that I noticed this little disparity, right? And it would seem to me like there has to be some reason for it.
Yeah.
You know?
And I would like for us to continue to point out those disparities because they could be significant. Maybe they're not, but it is interesting when you're talking about a project that's kind of falling down into this rabbit hole of multidimensionalism, you know?
Yeah.
And just the duality of character and props now that we're looking for red props and stuff, you know? So there's a couple things I think that will go along to support that multidimensionalism. And any disparities I think we should bring up and talk about for sure. That's an interesting one too, because it would vastly change the story if Chad took the wrong letter.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly right. And why would you have these different last names?
Yeah.
If it wasn't significant, you know, some of this other stuff we mentioned, like the logo of the on the mail truck, that might be nothing, right? But this, I feel like, has to be something,
right?
So
yeah, I could see that. So this transitions over to Richard Horn driving in his car, and he gets a text message that says "done." Yep. I kind of assumed this was from Chad saying, "Okay, I got the letter."
I did too.
Yeah. But then it's not so much about that text or the car that he's driving this time or whatnot as it is about where he's going.
Yeah, it's about where he's going. So we cut to Johnny Horn.
Yep. We see that Richard Horn pulls up, and Grandma Horn, who is Sylvia Horn, comes out and says to Richard, don't even get out of your car. You can't be here. Trying to stop him from coming in.
But I like the way that this was done. That we start really with Johnny and his weird bear.
Oh, I see. Yeah. So we're inside with Johnny sitting at the table.
Yeah. So first of all, where we left him off, we didn't know if he lived or died or what was going on.
Correct.
Apparently, he not only lived, but is basically more or less unchanged in terms of his behavior.
Right. And possibly because of running into the wall before, they have decided that they're going to, basically start to restrain him.
Yeah.
And
it seemed... Yeah.
Before it seemed like, he was just locked in a room and who opened the door.
Yeah.
But now it seems like they've tied him to a chair and they're forcing him to sit there at this table.
He's tied to the chair, and did you notice the chair is also tied to the table?
Yeah. So because he's a strong guy, he could just get up and run away to that chair.
And he's got a helmet on, which we saw him with a helmet in the original series a couple times, I believe. And this bear, this like perverse Teddy Ruxpin thing going on.
Yep. And it's just repeating the same phrase over and over again.
Hello, Johnny. How are you today?
Hello, Johnny. How are you today?
Yeah.
And Johnny seems like transfixed on it, but there was a question because it's not like a Teddy Ruxpin teaching you something.
No.
Right? It's just repeating the same phrase. It's more about just distracting Johnny. It's not giving him any kind of like deep education. It's not showing him or giving him any kind of spectrum of feeling. It's just the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'm certainly not an expert in this area, but with cognitive impairments and so on, I think that this is the kind of thing that is sometimes done with people with low functioning autism and things like this. Again, I'm not at all an expert, and again, we don't quite know what the deal is with Johnny. Right? There is that indication that maybe it had to do with a tumble down the stairs when he was younger.
Yeah.
In the missing pieces, there's some indication that maybe Audrey pushed him even. So I don't know, but this is clearly supposed to play at some level of treatment or something, or be calming or something, or that's how I took it.
And but at the same time, it's kind of disturbing. It's this fake, and also now that we've got Dougie, and since Dougie has appeared, anything that would represent the recurring Golem or Frankenstein or Android, anything that's going to be about, here's a humanoid representation that's not human.
Yeah.
I keep seeing that popping up again, too.
It's got this, like, plastic bubble head thing with a kind of crudely drawn face on it.
Yeah, a face actually we know from another Lynch project. So if you look closely at that face, it can be none other than the father from the Dumbland series.
Oh, nice connection.
Which is David Lynch drawing himself using a very simple paint program.
Right.
And the father in that series is it's very simple animation. It was a round head, two round eyes, a round gaping mouth because he's always going,
Yeah.
And like 2 or 3 offset teeth. And if you look at the head on Johnny's teddy bear, it totally is that head from that character.
Yeah.
And so making a connection there of some other project where it's basically an abusive father, again, an abusive male.
Yeah.
And again, another representation of a disembodied head or a head that does not go with the body that it's on.
Okay,
which we've seen with, Briggs and with Briggs's body and Ruth Davenport's head.
Yeah.
So a couple, again, this interdimensional thing that keeps unfolding. I keep seeing this symbology, or if nothing else, motifs that keep reappearing.
Right, and the other relationship I was going to draw here is, so Richard comes in, he's demanding money from Sylvia and basically assaults her. It's a very, very disturbing scene.
Right.
But that in the background, it keeps repeating, hello, Johnny, how are you today?
Yeah.
And it really reminded me of when Leland was killing Maddie and you had the record player scratching in the background. That kind of effect I thought was very similar.
Yeah, good find for sure. Same thing going on where in the room there's some traumatic event happening.
Yeah.
But there's some other loop that's outside that dimension that's playing.
Right. And we get a couple of pieces of information from this exchange. One is that Sylvia is Richard's grandmother.
Yeah, because he says, your grandfather has stopped giving you money or something. So we find out for the first time that Richard Horne is indeed the grandson of Ben Horne.
And I think he does also call her grandma in the middle of calling her a bitch and a fucking cunt and the rest. Yeah. So very brutal scene.
Right. So here's very brutal. Yeah, this is, again, just after watching him murder Miriam, or possibly murder Miriam. I'm sitting here thinking about, wow, how evil is Richard Horne? And I was totally disturbed, especially turning it on your own family. And the kind of assault that he does with the woman in the roadhouse where he's, grabbing her by the neck.
Yeah.
And then to see him do that same thing with his own grandmother.
Yeah.
That's, it's pretty heartless. And we see Richard is developing into one of the more evil characters in town.
He also refers to Johnny as a piece of shit or something.
Yeah, he says he's going to cornhole him or whatever.
Yeah,
it's really awful and disgusting speech to his own family.
And
But
Johnny ends up falling over during all of this because I guess he's kind of trying to help, right?
Yeah,
but
I got the impression that if Johnny wasn't tied up, that
he would have beat the shit out of Richard.
Yeah, he would have just beat the shit out of Richard Horne. And it's something that so much so that I'm like, gosh, I hope I get to see that.
Yeah, dude.
But okay, so we know that Ben Horne is the grandfather. We still don't know of the children we know about. So this means that Richard Horne is either Audrey's son
or Johnny's,
or could be Johnny's son.
Yeah, I mean, definitely people are jumping to Audrey and have been.
Yeah.
For episodes
since
now.
It was barely hinted at. People have said that. Yeah.
And I would agree that given how Johnny is, it might seem like a bit of a stretch, but it's certainly possible Johnny could be somehow Richard's father, one way or the other. And we still don't see Audrey.
And we still don't see Audrey, even though you're thinking any moment she'll pop up. We do not see her in this episode.
And also no oblique mention either.
Yeah,
right?
There was no mention of what about your mother? What about your father? Where are they? It was just the grandparents and the evil Richard Horne.
Yeah.
There's also a couple of just things. First of all, the acting is really tremendous in this show, and sometimes it comes out in these moments that I'm literally wow, let's rewind that and watch it again just because of the performance.
Yeah.
And I thought Richard Horne here getting evil and getting angry, using his eyebrows to turn into the bad guy, and you really see the face of evil on him.
Yeah.
And this is not Bob and Smoke and Mirrors. This is Richard Horne being a bastard,
Yeah, again, probably literally. Anyway.
Yeah. Right.
But again, just the viciousness of the attack and the demand for money, and he seems to kind of rob his grandmother blind here.
Yeah, at the end he says, "Oh yeah, I'm also going to take your purse if you didn't think I would. I'm going to do that too.
Empty out your safe, take your purse."
He takes the family silverware, is all wrapped up nice. You get the idea that that's been in the family for just decades or whatever.
It's why do you have to make something simple so fucking difficult?
Yeah, which also could be a meta phrase in the show itself. I like that as just kind of like a recurring thing. Why does something so simple have to become so complex? I think that's what Lynch does with his characters in general.
Yeah,
showing you the complexity behind simple eyes or what have you. Mm-hmm. Another thing during the scene that I couldn't help but think is back to a Kubrick reference.
Oh, yeah.
I really was reminded of A Clockwork Orange with this scene, where you have the character that's restrained on the floor watching a scene of violence against somebody they love.
Right.
With a piece of music playing that is kind of counter to what you would expect to hear.
Yeah, and this might not be music with the Hello Johnny thing, but it is interesting, now that you got me thinking about it, that in Clockwork Orange it was Singing in the Rain, right? And we did have a reference to that in a previous episode with Albert, right?
Correct. When he's saying, fuck you,
Fuck
Gene
you,
Kelly.
Gene Kelly, yeah. So
there's a recurring theme of musicals popping up here and there, too.
Right. And we mentioned The King and I before.
Yeah.
And I don't think at the time I remembered, but Pete in the original series does at one point mention The King and I.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I do remember that
right.
now.
And he's struggling to remember. He goes, The King and I.
Oh, yeah. Good call. Good call, for sure.
Yeah, what's going on with all of these kinds of references or allusions to musical theater? I don't know, but that's cool too.
Yeah, quite interesting. But there is some piece of music also that's playing in here besides the teddy bear looping.
Oh, right, that is true.
And so I wasn't able to kind of like find where that came from, but it is like a soft classical piece. And so it did tie a couple things together with the scene in Clockwork Orange for me. And since we've talked about Kubrick's The Shining and also some of the stuff from 2001 that seems to be coming out in this The Return, I kind of wonder if there's an ongoing theme there that, maybe he's doing this ongoing homage to Kubrick, sort of.
I definitely think there may well be that. I also, of course, have this feeling that weirdly the new Twin Peaks is David Lynch doing an homage to himself at times, but good stuff.
And the one last thing about this scene is there is one moment where Johnny's on the floor.
Yeah.
And we know just from checking out the credits and looking him up that the actor playing Johnny is actually a stuntman.
Right.
So,
and I believe the third actor to play Johnny.
Right. You mentioned that before, too. We haven't had a consistent Johnny.
Yeah.
There's something up. I don't know if it's just because he's busted his jaw and he's got his mouth wired shut, maybe.
Yeah.
There's something protecting his teeth or a mouth guard.
Yeah.
And he's tied up and he's got the helmet on, but there's a moment he looks up at his mom and Sylvia says, I'm sorry, Johnny.
Yeah.
And so you kind of wonder what that's about, if it's just about the immediacy of what has just happened, or if this is about Johnny having a fucked life when, in fact, the grandson Richard comes around, probably had everything handed to him on a silver platter and still turned out evil.
Yeah.
And in the comparison to Johnny, who never had like a good, fair, straight shot at life.
Right.
But there's one moment where he looks up and it kind of sounds like he's just grunting. But the second or third time I heard it and was watching it, I feel like he looks at Sylvia and he says, "Mom."
I heard "Mom" the first time.
Okay, so I didn't maybe catch that the first time, but when I did realize it, that really pinched my heart a little bit at that moment.
But interestingly, when I watched it the second time with the subtitles on, it just said groans.
Yeah, exactly.
But I heard
groans.
"Mom" the first time.
And I thought that it was Johnny saying "Mom." He was kind of like crying a little bit, but calling for his mom.
Yeah.
And it just pinched my heart. I mean, I just thought like, this is so shitty. And then all of those feelings adding up to like how much I fucking hate Richard Horne now, And so that's what a good writer's job is to do, and like especially with an arc story and you develop these characters. I'm not sure I've ever hated anybody on television as much as I hate this kid.
Yeah, but you don't watch Game of Thrones, right? So
what we get next is a nice little transition shot that's external Vegas, sweeping over the cityscape, and then down into Duncan Todd's office. Right?
Yeah, and I'm starting to feel like that exterior shot is another cue of where we're going.
Yeah.
When I see that now, I'm thinking, Duncan Todd's coming up.
Right.
Right? So I think there is that kind of visual language at play here. But one interesting thing here is, so Roger tells him Ike's been arrested and so on. But then the meat of the scene is him talking to Tony.
Yeah, so Anthony's sitting there waiting for him. There's a few things about the Vegas connections that are cleared up for us in this scene.
Right.
Duncan Todd calls over Anthony, who works at Lucky 7 Insurance with Dougie.
Right. This is the Tony or Anthony Sinclair who Dougie called out for lying in that previous episode about the case files. Yeah.
And so Duncan Todd calls him over, and basically a few things are established. First of all, he says, you remember the Mitchums, who are our... basically business
enemies, nemesis, something like that.
So he says, they're the business rivals and they're basically arch nemesis or whatever.
Right, and he reminds Tony and thus us that apparently these two, Duncan Todd and Anthony Sinclair, conspired to deny the Mitchums this $30 million insurance claim.
Right. This is the fire that was considered arson. This is the reason that Dougie is calling out Tony for being a liar.
I'm not sure if it's the same case, but along the same lines.
That's true, right. So they could be doing several of these kind of scams and be rolling in millions of dollars. But this particular one cost the Mitchums $30 million that they should have gotten back on their casino hotel being burned down.
Right.
Anthony, Tony, proceeds to get an assignment from Duncan Todd.
Right, so Duncan's got a plan. Ike's failed to kill Dougie.
Yeah.
Connecting these dots up, right? From last episode, we more or less learned Mr. C is Duncan Todd's boss. Duncan Todd hired Ike or employed Ike to kill Dougie. Before that, employed Lorraine, I suppose. But now Ike has failed. So Duncan Todd's new plan is for Tony to go to the Mitchums and get them to believe that Dougie is responsible for them losing this $30 million so that the Mitchums kill Dougie. Right?
Yep, exactly. Yeah, and adding in there if you fail at this, then you're going to have to kill Dougie yourself.
Right.
So somehow we see that Tony is much more wrapped up in this seedy underbelly crime element than we previously thought.
Yeah, we didn't have much or any indication of that before, really, except him maybe being a kind of shady insurance agent.
Mm-hmm.
But now we see this connection with Duncan Todd, and that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And
also this, even though it's coming from Duncan Todd, it kind of sorts out who Duncan Todd is in this whole thing, too. So Duncan Todd, we know, is getting messages and receiving commands from Mr. C.
Well, it also made me think, we were talking about this last time, of whether Duncan Todd has his own business going on, and signs here point to yes for me.
Yeah, and in fact, competitor of the Mitchum brothers, because he says we're bitter enemies, I think is the phrase that's used.
He's not just Mr. C's lackey, but has his own enterprise going on and has been sucked into Mr. C's orbit.
Yeah.
That's
and
how
so I got the idea that what we're talking about here are the Vegas casino moguls.
Yeah.
Much in the same way as in Mulholland Drive, Lynch kind of makes the bad guys the suit-wearing Hollywood moguls, right? But either way, it comes back to the guys with the money that are pulling the strings, of which we have these moguls in Vegas, and we have Mr. C, who's kind of one of them, if not the king of them all. So we come back to this in a minute, but before we do, there is another scene that hashes out, which is just a simple scene where we see interior restaurant, Constance and Albert at a date together, right?
So I thought this was a really cute scene that we see here.
Yeah.
Albert and Constance are talking and laughing, and you can't hear what they're saying or anything like that.
But it's probably dark and cynical.
Yeah, but Gordon's watching them. He's got a big smile on his face, right? And he calls Tammy over, and he's like, look, Albert and the lady from the morgue.
Yeah.
And they sort of share a moment.
Yeah, they both say the word sweet. Like, oh, how sweet,
I'm kind of laughing at that. And yeah, I mean, clearly the chemistry was there between Albert and Constance from the get-go.
Right.
And I wonder even how much did they plan that, or how much did it just sort of happen during the filming, and maybe they decided, let's roll with it.
I can totally see that, where they were on screen together, and then they were joking maybe, and somebody realized, like, oh, you know what, we should add a scene here where they're having dinner together.
Yeah.
But besides the exposition of their relationship, I thought this pointed out a little bit about Tammy and Cole together, too.
The way he puts his arm around her?
Yeah, there's a couple of times now he's done that, where he's put his arm around her. The fact that they, too, are also together in a nice, low-lit dinner house, restaurant. And, so what are they doing there, and it kind of gave me the idea that are they just business partners and FBI partners?
Yeah.
Or do they have a relationship too? I don't think we've seen anything to sway either way.
I don't know. I did get the feeling they were more at the bar, if you will.
Okay.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. The contours of that relationship, open question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But just something, nice little interlude, if nothing else, of this nice little romantic moment. And it also reminded me of the moment where Cole is telling Albert, good luck in the cold rain. I'm here enjoying a nice bottle of Bordeaux.
Right.
Whereas, the FBI are having this nice, relaxing, calm evening in a nice restaurant. Outside of that, there's all hell is breaking loose, basically,
Yeah.
I thought that was a fun little aside to interrupt our Vegas scene with the Mitchum brothers. So we get back to Vegas after this, and this is the moment where Anthony shows up at the casino and is basically carrying out his mission from Duncan Todd.
Yeah, and the Candy stuff here I thought was really entertaining.
Yeah, this is a really great scene with Candy also,
And this is really where I started wondering about Sandy and Mandy and their, existential status, right?
Yeah.
Because they basically the Mitchums tell Candy to go and get Tony and bring him to the office.
Right. Well, they have to tell her a couple of times because she's lost in some sort of meditative trance or something.
Yeah, some reverie of some kind. And then once she does hear them, she asks, you want me to get him and bring him here? Like, she's still not following, yeah, that's what we just said, But what I really liked was when she's out on the casino floor, when you just have that shot where you can see her on the surveillance video.
Yeah.
But we stay with the Mitchum brothers in the room.
I love this. This is a classic James Bond kind of moment.
Yeah.
Right? The bad guys are there watching on the camera, and you expect her to run out, grab his arm, and bring him back instantly, but she doesn't.
No, she lingers. At one point, it seems like she's kind of drawing a square in the air or some shit.
She's pointing to exits or something. You don't know what she's pointing to.
Yeah.
And there's a great comedic timing here as well, right?
the way they get frustrated.
Yeah, it's just silence. There's a back and forth editing, maybe 4 times before finally they lose it.
It's like, what the fuck?
What the fuck? Yeah, I didn't ask her to tell her life story.
Yeah.
It's for 4 fucking hours. And the way that the back and forth between the Mitchum brothers right here is pretty fun.
Yeah, they've got a good little back and forth going.
The comedy timing is really great in that moment.
Yeah, and then they finally buzz the pit boss Warwick and say, get those fuckers in here.
Yeah, and do it now. Brad yells, and you see in the monitor, it's so loud that it caused the pit boss to drop his earpiece. Yeah. So I thought that was hilarious. So then they come back into the office. Yeah. I think the first question is, to Tony is, well, what the fuck were you guys talking about?
Right, exactly.
And he says, no, she was talking.
She was talking, and then she just says she was basically talking about the weather.
Yeah, right. There's something that made me rewind, and then in the couple of times I watched it, I paid attention to this very closely. So she says something along the lines of, I told him that we were in the version layer.
Yeah. And
so after the first thought on this was like, wait, what? The version layer? Mm-hmm. And then she goes into saying, smoggy and foggy or whatever. And then it's apparently that's kind of like a weather thing in Vegas.
Yeah.
And then how lucky she is that they get to work in a casino with AC.
Right.
And you get the idea that maybe on the video she was pointing out to Anthony where all the ACs are.
I wonder, maybe.
We still don't know. But in my mind, I was like, version layer. And again, something peaked in my mind. I was like, interdimensionalism and which version and the layer of what. And so I researched that a little bit. And there is something that Vegas is sitting in. And this was also pointed out to me. Right. The inversion layer, where the crosswinds will meet and will create this fogginess or whatever. Mm-hmm. So it's actually like a weather term, but she either misspoke the line saying in the version layer instead of the inversion layer, or they intentionally were like, let's throw a little Easter egg in there that'll get people to have a conversation about multidimensionalism and in this moment.
Oh, cool.
And so I don't know if we're being thrown off or a little misdirect happening there.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I definitely noticed the phrase, but then I guess just tied it into the weather stuff in a way where I didn't take it much further.
Which probably is actual. But I thought it was worth noting that she did say version layer, and so it raised an eyebrow for a second. But it's at the same time pretty ridiculous. And and then they get their answer, and they kind of roll their eyes and go right back to Tony, like, okay, we can't do anything about
Candy.
Just
kind of shrugs, know. And then Tony basically just starts his spiel about how Dougie's the one who defrauded them. And I thought this ended up playing pretty straightforwardly. Like, Tony's almost surprised how easily they're believing him. Yeah?
Yeah, well, he's also, I feel like, laying it on pretty thick. And, he expects more of a reaction or something.
Yeah.
He doesn't realize that they've already seen Mr. Jackpots.
Yeah, he doesn't realize they already have Dougie Jones on their radar.
Yeah. But he's laying it on thick. He says twice, he says, you have an enemy in Dougie Jones.
Yeah, because he just doesn't get how the interaction is going.
Yeah.
Right? He's expecting some resistance, and he's not getting it, and they're just kind of like, okay, noted, go away. And he's like, no, you have an enemy. And,
and he's not doing his mission very well either. He's very overly exaggerating when he says, I'm here on my own. On my own.
Right.
I came to the decision myself. Mm-hmm. And so obviously,
I think it's if they had not already been primed with this other Dougie stuff, I don't think this would have worked.
Yeah,
but they were.
Yeah,
and so they seem to believe Tony pretty immediately.
Yeah, and they also immediately kind of recognize, well, we don't need this guy in our office. Escort him out.
Right, and they ask Candy again.
Yeah,
right. There's 2 other girls.
Yeah.
They don't ask
either. So, what's
with
Mandy and Sandy?
Yeah.
We've talked a little bit about this. Candy's the main go-to.
Yeah.
They shrug. They both have to scream Candy in sync to get her to wake up out of her trance this time.
Right.
And then you hear Brad say something along the lines of, like, I know, but if we fire her, what's she going to do?
Yeah, she has nowhere else to go.
She has nowhere else to go.
Like that.
That actually made me think, like, well, wait a second. Who's Candy? Is Candy, like, their sister or something even?
I don't know.
They have some sort of allegiance to her, maybe through family, or they just genuinely care. Yeah. And in the previous scene where we see Candy speaking about hitting Rodney in the face, Rodney says, I'm okay now, baby. Don't worry. I'm okay. And you kind of get this moment. You're like, oh, wait, these are the bad mogul guys. But at the same time, they have these soft moments.
Yeah.
And so, again, the dynamism of this type of character.
It rounds them out nicely, you know. But I just did really think, why are they asking Candy again? She sort of fucked it up so bad before.
Yeah.
And now it's still going to be Candy again. So.
Well, because, we got to use her for something. Where else is she going to go if we fire her?
Yeah, what about the other 2?
Yeah.
I think this is why I started asking myself whether maybe they're not real or something, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
But we basically go from there. We're still with the Mitchums, but we go back to their house or apartment or condo.
Yeah, they have this nice loft place
yeah.
that they seem to do all their real planning in.
Mm-hmm.
And, so we have Sandy and Mandy in this moment making them drinks.
Right.
Bradley's tie is disheveled, so this is after a day of work. You get the idea.
Mm-hmm.
We also heard earlier that Tony showed up after midnight, they say.
Mm-hmm.
What the hell is he doing here? It's after midnight already.
Yeah.
So if they've already had that whole thing happen and then they come back into their loft, we're guessing at this point it's got to be 2, 3 a.m. or something, but it's wee hours of the morning.
In all likelihood, yeah.
And
They're
it's
have
a short scene. They're having a nightcap, like you say, and they have a little connection together, right? Which is basically them planning about what to do about Dougie.
Yeah, I mean, this is where we really get the confirmation that they believe Tony about Dougie, right?
Yeah.
That he cost them $30,447,000.
Right, so that's the $30 million plus the Mr. Jackpot's money, $450,000.
Oh, I guess so. Yeah,
right.
I don't know if I quite put that together.
Yeah. So I was realizing that, like, okay, so now they're mad at Dougie not just for the $500,000 he won on Mr. Jackpot's, but $30 million plus that.
Oh, and that's a good catch in terms of where they go next with this nice interpretation of that line we all know.
Exactly. So they're saying you fucked me once, shame on us, which is completely off.
I love the inversion.
Yeah.
Fuck us over once, shame on us.
Yeah.
Fuck us over twice, shame on you, you're dead.
You're dead if you fuck us over the second time.
Yeah.
So we get what they're saying. It reminded me of George W. Bush, actually, trying to come out with the same line that we all know what you're trying to say, so it doesn't matter what you say. But yeah, they flubbed it, but at the same time, it's their own version of that.
No, but I like it. It seems very fitting to me in terms of a kind of gangster logic or something, right?
Exactly.
Like, you fuck us once, shame on us.
We left shame to us the first time.
We left ourselves vulnerable. We weren't doing a good enough job of keeping you from fucking us.
Yeah.
So fuck us once, shame on us.
Yep.
Right. But you do it again, you're fucking dead.
Yeah.
Right. Like.
Yeah.
We can't let it stand twice.
Yep.
So
that's the solid gangster worldview. And also we hear Rodney just for a split moment say in this scene, now I know how Brando feels.
Right. What is he referring to?
So, of course, I thought of Wall-E because we've had Brando come up. But at the same time, I think you pointed out this must be The Godfather.
I think so. But he says Brando, not
yeah, he doesn't
Don
say
Corleone.
Don Corleone. He says Brando. But again, a nod to the fact that we're inside of a fictional world that is aware of our real world's fiction, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So, so it's very interesting that he's saying, calling Brando out by the actor's name, just like me saying, "Oh yeah," and then Belushi came in and said this,
and people do that,
and people do that, and I thought that played very well. But it's also him recognizing, like, oh man, we're real gangsters. Now we have to kill somebody.
Yeah.
And now I know the ethical dilemma that Don Corleone felt on his daughter's wedding day, or whatever. You know.
Sure.
Yeah, so I thought that was a really cool scene, and also shoring up like that these are going to be some gangster brothers, that we might see these guys snapping into action, and also threatening Dougie.
Right, and I mean, what I really enjoyed was this does ultimately tie them directly into Dougie and the things that have been going on.
Yeah,
right?
More so than just the Mr. Jackpot's fiasco. And it also is yet another crew of people that are gunning for Dougie. Dougie's got so many enemies now, and he's got one basically loyal companion in Janie E. And it's really a classic narrative setup of us against the world,
Yeah, although he does also seem to get some assistance from Philip Gerard and the Arm at certain points.
Yeah,
right?
And also what we saw in last episode is Bushnell himself.
Yeah, Bushnell's on his
giving
side.
him days off work, and he's damn strange business, isn't it?
Yeah,
his car blows up one day, and then somebody tries to kill him. And I love that Bushnell used to be a boxer, and he's ready to kick ass for Dougie. He really is. So, but this, setting up the good guy versus bad guy motif is really effective here. It's really great.
So mentioning the Arm, as I just did, we go back to Gordon doodling.
Oh, this is a fun scene. So he's drinking some wine. He's doodling. Also, I don't know if you noticed, but on his left, on the table next to his drawing, sits what seems to be maybe his wallet or badge.
Okay.
On top of which seems to me to be a custom taser.
Okay,
there's like
notice this.
Like a little red box that has 2 metal pins sticking out of the end of it.
Okay.
At first, it reminded me of the weird pager-style box we see down in Buenos Aires. But upon second viewing and looking a little bit closer, I believe he's got a custom taser, and it caught my eye because it's red also, and it made me think, oh, is there a dual prop that's also another taser somewhere? But nevertheless, He's sitting there. He's working on this drawing with a Sharpie.
Yeah.
And it's pretty good, but the camera shot is great. You don't really see what the drawing is.
Yeah.
And then he's interrupted by a knock on the door, and he gets up to go answer the door, and the camera zooms into the drawing.
Into the drawing. So let's talk about the drawing for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
It's I described it as some kind of dog-like thing with tree antlers.
Yeah, at its very simplest, it's somebody reaching to pet a deer. At the very most complex, it's a disembodied arm hovering up above a mammalian dog-shaped animal that has uncomfortably tree-like antlers.
With dots on it.
And it's spotted. It doesn't look like a deer at all to me. The hand, that's a hand. That's a human hand and a human arm.
Yeah, and you mentioned Dumbland earlier. I mean, we are, again, this kind of crude Lynchian drawing.
Yeah.
But I don't know exactly what to do with this.
Well, the arm, I thought to myself, the arm, just like you just said.
Of course, I thought of the arm, yeah.
And the antlers brings up the ideas of, a forest animal.
Yeah.
I thought of, but the antlers do look like trees, and so I thought of the pine trees.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I looked back at it, especially a second time, I said to myself, that's not in the shape of a deer. It looks more like a dog.
Right.
And as soon as I thought that, I thought of the knocker on Bill Hastings' door.
Right.
The dog arms or paws that Mr. C, the dog legs that Mr. C is sending out. When they search Bill Hastings' Volvo and they remove the ice chest and they see a bit of dog flesh, an ear or paw or whatever that is.
Yeah, we guessed that's what that was.
So I was wondering if there's a connection there. Is that a dog? I mean, but it's just kind of another one of these details. It's like, wait, is it about the bunny?
Yeah.
No, it's not about the bunny. And you have to decide, but then later on it might actually be about the bunny.
Yeah. Well, and particularly with what happens next, I did start wondering if Gordon Cole has some, weird visions that he's trying to draw or something.
Which he could have been having this whole time.
Right, maybe.
We know from Secret History that he's been really thoroughly digging through the information about what's going on in the woods around Twin Peaks for many years.
Right.
And he's brought Tammy into this discovery process, doing the detective work, trying to investigate what's going on. So he gets up to go answer the door. We find out in a second that it's actually Albert at the door, but there's a very shocking vision he has.
Yeah.
He opens the door and he sees Laura in tears and hysterical.
Right, and let's go slow here. So the music hits, right, and the framing of the shot, Gordon opening the door, we stay on Gordon, we stay on his face, that sort of ominous music comes in.
Yeah.
And then you got to Laura crying her eyes out, basically. This footage from Fire Walk With Me, I believe.
Yeah, I thought this was the footage of her going in tears over to Harold's place,
and maybe,
who was a trusted friend.
You may be right about that.
And I could totally be wrong, but that's my first impression. I remembered her appearing to Harold in tears.
That sounds right.
And I think that's after she discovers...
that it's Leland.
That it's Leland taking her diary and coming into her room.
Because he's got to hide her diary with Harold.
And it's that moment where she said, Dad, did you come home from work today?
Yeah.
And I think after that...
I saw you. Yeah. I think you're right. Yeah.
So it's also Laura in the moment that she is suffering the emotion of realizing the truth of her attacker.
Right.
So whether or not that's significant, I don't know. But it is Laura in that moment of epiphany, in the moment of full understanding how harsh the truth can be, and the truth as a destructive element of her emotions and her state. Anyway, so that's the Laura he sees. He doesn't see the prom queen Laura in the picture.
Right. He sees this Laura, and the overlay is of Sarah Palmer.
Yes.
Lamenting
saying her name.
Laura, right? And I think that audio might be from when she finds out Laura's dead.
Yeah. I remember the guttural kind of grainy sound in her voice when she's repeating the name. Yeah.
So very striking. Again, what's going on with Gordon here? He's getting a vision of Laura Palmer. And yes, as I said, with the drawing, I don't know, maybe Gordon gets visions. Maybe we just didn't know this before.
Well, we certainly haven't seen it before, but it brings up a lot of possibilities.
It is striking to me that once it's Albert, he doesn't mention anything about this.
Yeah, Albert obviously sees that he was tripping, seeing some vision, because he looks behind him and it's like, well, okay, hey, it's me.
But they just proceed as normal.
Yeah, and what they proceed into is kind of a revelation that's shocking as well.
Oh, yeah. How do we take this stuff about Diane?
Yeah, so Albert comes in and says, hey, we intercepted a message to and from Diane. And she was sent this message saying, around the dinner table, the conversation is lively, which we've seen Mr. C send, and we did previously see Diane receiving that text.
Right, but as we noted last time, there's a question of whether it is the same text.
Right, that was sent directly to her or not, because it was all in caps, right?
The one that Mr. C was typing was all lowercase.
Yeah.
The one that Diane receives was in all caps and had a comma and a period that were not in the one Mr. C was typing.
Correct.
Okay.
So, again, this is an inconsistency, or it's an intentional part of the story telling us maybe this text went somewhere else before it came to Diane.
I'm going to be a bit disappointed if this is just a continuity error because, people are watching this show so closely.
I mean, I would too, but if we find out that's the case, let's not be too disappointed because I do know a little something about how difficult and what a tremendous task it is to make such a show. An 18-hour film with no mistakes in it is going to be nearly 0% chance.
I understand, but it's just.
But we want this to
given
be a thread.
Given what we're up to here. So I am reading this, putting some weight on that difference between text messages.
Yeah.
I am too. Not buying that Diane is working with Mr. C.
Yeah, and the way that the show is run so far, we don't know much. We have seen Diane, but still, even Albert and Cole are talking like, "Hey, what's with Diane?" So we don't know. It's in the world of the FBI too.
Yeah,
she could be a double agent. She could be doing something to protect all of them that we don't know the whole story.
And there's something here. There's something here because Cole says, I felt it when I hugged her, but now it's confirmed.
Yeah, exactly.
But even then, what is confirmed? Because what Albert says is that this text message was routed through Mexico.
Yeah.
Right. And that then Diane replied with something about Bill Hastings. They have Bill Hastings, and they're going to have him take him to the site.
Correct.
Or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Diane supposedly is feeding information back to Mr. C about the FBI's plans with Bill Hastings.
Or is it Mr.
Suppose.
C? It's the thing. I mean, you have Albert mentioning that this was after Cooper had flown the coop.
Right.
So, of course, that's leading us to think that. And I don't know if Albert's thinking that. I don't know if Gordon's thinking that.
Right.
I mean, maybe this is right. Maybe that is the case. Maybe this was an exchange between Diane and Mr. C, and we'll just have to see how it shapes up. But I at least think the door is open here for there being some third party, right? Maybe Mr. C sent this message to Jeffries or the person he thinks is Jeffries.
Yeah, there's still a couple missing people. Philip Jeffries is one of them, or the person that Mr. C is asking in the hotel room, wait a minute, is this Mr. Jeffries? Whoever that person is, we're still missing. Mm-hmm. And we know there's the Buenos Aires connection, which certainly, of course, is not Mexico, but is south of the border, is a region other than the United States.
Right, and I don't think that, you mentioned earlier, I think, about whether Mr. C might be in Mexico. That seems like quite a drive from South Dakota to Mexico. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't seem to me, well, particularly because he walks the rest of the way, right? Ray's driving him from the prison. Then you have that whole scene where Ray shoots him. And then Mr. C's walked the rest of the way to meet.
That's hard to hash
Chantal
out because a lot of that would depend on how far he drove with Ray before they pulled over and shot at each other.
I don't think it's hundreds and hundreds of miles.
Well, but it could have been, and it is desert-looking terrain. So, I mean, we don't know, but I am actually leaning on your side that it's probably not Mexico because it would have taken a few days to get down there. You would presume.
But, I mean, of course, with Mr. C's magic tech,
right.
Maybe he could have routed it through Mexico to Philly or whatever anyway.
That's true.
So,
he seemed to be able to control all cellular and computer communications just from whatever device he happens to be holding, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, so we don't really know. I'm just hesitating a bit to jump on the bandwagon of thinking that this confirms that Diane is working with Mr. C. That's all.
Yeah. That's definitely worth noting, and I tend to agree with you on that one. The fascinating thing about this scene brings us back to the zone, though, is that regardless of who's being reported to, what we have is the FBI getting closer to the coordinates of where the zone is and figuring out possibly what's happened with Major Briggs, who killed Briggs, certainly where's Major Briggs' head, and where's Ruth Davenport's body are still unanswered questions at this point.
I'm definitely excited about the indication that Bill Hastings is going to take them to the coordinates.
Wow, that would be great, yeah.
Which that's what Diane's text said, right? And I think that's the only place we're getting that information, but it makes sense that probably that's the plan.
Yeah, so. And let's address real quick if there's more than one set of coordinates. Are the coordinates that this is talking about the local possible entryway into another dimension that's near in South Dakota near Buckhorn.
Yeah, I'm confident there are at least 2 sets of coordinates, maybe 3 are at play.
So the other would be Twin Peaks itself.
Well, I don't know about that. Just sticking with the Buckhorn stuff, right?
Okay.
Thinking about Bill Hastings. Mm-hmm. There was a set of coordinates that he says he and Ruth and maybe his assistant Betty was tied into this too. The coordinates that they found that helped them locate Major Briggs.
Correct.
All right, that's set 1. Then he says they talked to Major Briggs, and the Major asked them to find another set of coordinates to bring back to him. That's 2 sets of coordinates.
Okay.
And it's that second set that he says Ruth had written on her hand, so she wouldn't forget them. Mm-hmm. Then what I was thinking of is the possible third set, maybe, maybe not.
It's Truman's bit of paper.
Well, maybe that, but then also what coordinates are the ones that Mr. C is looking for?
Let me just run through my understanding as it was.
Okay.
There's the coordinates that Mr. C is looking for.
Yes.
Those aren't necessarily separated from the coordinates that Bill Hastings' secretary had. Mm-hmm. They even said we're looking for, at some point Ray acknowledges that the secretary of Bill Hastings is the one that has these coordinates.
Yes.
I was under the assumption that they got inside this other dimension, maybe another lodge. Mm-hmm. They saw Briggs, and when Bill Hastings is breaking down, he says, then he asked for the coordinates. We gave him the coordinates, which I thought they were giving Briggs the coordinates that they had written down that allowed them to find out where Briggs was, who was supposedly in hibernation. So in my mind, that was all the same one singular set of coordinates. But a second set came up in my mind with the paper that Truman found, the coordinates that would possibly delineate where the entrance to the lodge was that was part of Briggs's work in Twin Peaks.
Right, Jackrabbit's Palace and all of that.
That ties into all that. So there might be a little discrepancy, or it might be a little bit open to interpretation as to which coordinates that Bill Hastings is on, and is there more than one set of coordinates that he and Ruth Davenport had access to? I thought there was only the one set, and Briggs wanted to know, how did you find me, basically? And those coordinates were the ones written on Ruth's hand, which is now missing with her body.
Okay, but that's so further evidence for my theory there are at least 2 sets is that Bill says he doesn't know that set of coordinates that's on Ruth's hand.
Yeah, he says he forgot. He's blubbering. He's like, I forgot them. Ruth wrote them down on her hand or something.
So if now we have some indication that Bill Hastings is going to take the FBI to the site, then presumably I'm thinking that's the first set of coordinates they found where they found the Major. And that what Ruth had on her hand was some second set that Major Briggs wanted.
Okay, and if we follow that, then it might seem that the second set of coordinates might be revealing to everybody else what Cooper found out the hard way originally, that those coordinates to me would make sense are the entryway in Twin Peaks, in the woods near Twin Peaks.
Could be, or something like that.
So that would also be a way for the narrative to bring all of these characters back to Twin Peaks.
Yeah, that would be cool. But it also makes the question of where the hell is Ruth's body kind of central, and the question of who killed Ruth Davenport. Right. I mean, at least it's how, the way I'm thinking about it. We're caught up in all of these other questions, all of these other mysteries, and certainly if you go online and check forums, people are asking questions about all kinds of stuff. What about this question? Who killed Ruth Davenport? And I think that there is a weird way in which it is, and it's kind of cool, that is kind of the central question, mirroring who killed Laura Palmer. But it's so covered over with all of this other stuff that you can lose track of it.
Oh, yeah, I see.
In contrast, stark contrast to who killed Laura Palmer, right? Because it's tied up with that mystery with the coordinates that we were talking about. If the coordinates on Ruth's body are the coordinates Mr. C is after, then Mr. C doesn't have those coordinates.
Then he didn't kill her, and who did?
Who did? Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Well, also we have all the evidence in our realm, the physical realm, all the evidence points to Bill Hastings, even though he's claiming he was in a dream state.
Yeah.
So his fingerprints were all over her house. We also have seen Ruth Davenport's head, which also is either missing an eye or had a bullet wound through the eye.
Yeah, and people are not talking about that.
Yeah. So the other thing that reminds me of 2 things. First of all, Nadine, just with her eye patch, but even more current is Mr. C shooting Bill Hastings' wife, Phyllis.
Yeah.
And that was also a similar thing, like a bullet through the eye socket, right?
It seemed like it, yeah. It was kind of hard to see because she just kind of falls, but the blood's coming from that area. And I definitely had that reading, just not sure whether it's clear. But yeah, certainly that kind of shot through the eye.
So I think all this together brings a high noon Western kind of feel happening because with the information that Briggs kept for Bobby and Truman to discover, we now have a time and a date that seems like a showdown might go on.
Right.
We have good guy set up versus bad guy. We have the Dougie and Janie us against the world thing happening. And I got to say, I'm super excited. How is all this going to go down? It seems like we're going to get a really cool shoot 'em up out of this, you know. So in that kind of sense of the high noon like showdown, like, what's going to happen when, you know, and this showdown that I picture in this cowboy kind of way, which this episode starting with Carl Rodd singing Red River Valley kind of brings all of this into this sort of Western scope, where in the sense the showdown would happen between the white cowboy hat and the black cowboy hat, right?
Yeah.
Which in my mind is Mr. C and Dougie.
Yeah.
Which is also two doppelgangers facing each other, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's just wrapping it all up into this really like critical moment where one person facing themselves, you know, and that is really the ultimate battle is against oneself or something. And that might just be another side or just one other way of the many ways you could look at this whole thing. But I'm seeing this coming together as really a fun shootout. You know, this is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
And another thing, last thing to wrap up this scene, it's an important piece of information. Again, as Albert and Cole are talking, another knock at the door to interrupt what's happening.
Right, and this is Tammy.
Yeah.
And I like how it's really loud, almost like we're hearing through Gordon's hearing aid.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, and then the sound design, right.
Yeah.
And then he turns it down,
right,
and we adjust with him. I thought that was really wonderful.
Yeah, it was cool. But so Tammy's there because she's got a new picture from one of these memory cards from the New York City penthouse.
Right. So she says, remember the penthouse in New York City.
The
they have a
box
photo
murders,
of the glass box with Mr. C inside of the glass box.
Was he inside? I thought he was not inside.
Well,
there's another figure. It was kind of hard to tell based on the angle and so on. Definitely Mr. C is in the frame, and there's another guy in the frame.
It seemed to me there was a scientist kind of sitting or perched outside of the glass box.
Yeah.
In my mind, that scientist might have been the previous person watching it that was hinted at in episode 1.
I could follow you there.
And Mr. C was a bust. It was just head and shoulders that was down toward the bottom of the box. But I didn't see the rest of his body protruding below.
Yeah.
So it made me think that he was in there.
Maybe.
But in this weird, like, bust representation, and maybe he was just becoming... You know, we also saw Dougie Cooper himself floating in the box where he was kind of sideways or, you know, belly down, hovering.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess along those lines, the idea that it would be on one of these camera cards, I did think that the cameras were all pointed at the box, right? That was what they were interested in.
Right.
But I don't know. Looking at it, just something about the angle and the positioning of the... kind of window or portal that seems to go outside of the building made me feel like maybe he wasn't in the box. I don't know.
I thought it was awkward too. Although
clear.
I came out of it thinking, okay, he was in the box in an awkward way. Maybe I'm just led to believe that because I've already seen Cooper and the experiment inside the box.
Yeah. It was
the other possibility would be that maybe he's there witnessing or setting up this whole thing, that maybe Mr. C himself is the billionaire that has paid for this whole operation.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's fascinating too because that pulls a lot of things together as far as this long plan. So what we have is the possibility that Bob got out of the Black Lodge using Coop's body and probably immediately started making connections with the underworld and doing some gangster shit to save money and become a billionaire, to at least to the point where you can freely fly to Rio and have this nice house down in Rio. And also get tons of basically heathen type people, henchmen that are under you. And for years and years and years, he develops his money and he develops his network with the intention and the plan and the purpose to not have to go back into the lodge.
Right. So it would make sense, perhaps, that this glass box was part of his plan. Maybe. Right. I could see how that could be coherent.
And this could just be total hypothesis that's wrong. but this could bring it back to the idea that Mr. C has created all this stuff in order to more or less lure the real Cooper out so that maybe he can trap him in another body like Dougie's and then have him assassinated.
Yeah.
Or to subvert the idea that Philip Jeffries on the phone tells him, and that the Arm also admits, that they both can't be in the world together. That if Coop gets out, that Mr. C has to go back. So Bob, being inside Cooper's body and Mr. C, would then have created this long, elaborate plan as to how to subvert this whole thing, which might involve the manufacturing of Dougie himself.
I think so.
Whom we know is not existent before 97. And then somehow arranging things so that when Cooper does get out, he lands in a body that can then be killed.
Right. So I'm on board with all of that. I actually think it's almost fairly well established at this point, since we have a pretty good confirmation that it is Mr. C who took the hit out on Dougie through Duncan Todd and Lorraine and like the spike and so on, right? But I'm hoping the glass box is still something else. Right. I would be mildly disappointed if Mr. C is also responsible for the glass box. I could see how that could work, but I'm still kind of hoping there's some other figure at play there. But we at least get some connection between him and that New York City scene.
And all the more so maybe why it's ambiguous, because if he was standing there with his arm around the scientist, handing him a check,
right,
or if he was completely obviously floating inside the box the same way Cooper was,
that'd be clear.
That would explain it. But we have this awkward halfway in between space where we still don't get an answer.
Yeah.
But like you said, there is a connection, so we can rely on that connection.
Yeah, there's something here.
And this tells us that, okay, so maybe Diana's still doing some good FBI work. Or, maybe Diane's not completely a sellout, but maybe there's just more to the story we don't know yet, which usually is the case.
I'm sure. Well, there's definitely more we don't know.
Yeah.
To be sure. Yeah.
Right. But I love how it's all coming together. And, so when we get the scene with Tammy coming in and showing us picture, it's like, ooh, another picture, too. We had the Rio picture of him. Right. We had the mugshot pictures of him. We had the young Cooper and now the aged Mr. C comparison.
But then, of course, they do not seem to have a shot of Cooper coming through, which again, I floated this theory to you before, that there has to be some conscious observer in the room or something like that. I'm really thinking that's probably the case. At the same time, you could say the FBI is still going through all of those memory cards, so they could trickle out more to us as we move forward. Right? I think that door is open.
Yeah, because you're right. We have gotten the experiment, and we have gotten Mr. C now. Cooper, when we saw him there, was right before the couple came in, and were there to witness it. So it might be something to do with having to witness what's going on.
Yeah, you would certainly think that if he was caught on one of those cameras, they would have found it when they were looking at the footage from that night when Sam and Tracy died.
Somehow I feel like there's an undercurrent of this being extreme reality TV or something, this future weird interdimensional state where you can call forth beings from other dimensions and watch them on TV. I don't know. Yeah. Which is maybe what is the undercurrent of the whole show, actually, is, at what point does the other dimension involve a fictional dimension of characters where, at what point are we the ones standing on the other side of that glass watching all of them?
Yeah.
At what point are we both real existential beings, except we're just inside different dimensions?
Yeah, and then we're going to find out really the true dimension is invitation to love.
Right, invitation to love. That would be great.
Yeah.
Or at least it'd be fun to see Johnny watching it or something, to see, is this show still running after 29 years?
I mean, it would work because it's like As the World Turns or something.
Yeah.
It could be on for decades. So.
But again, that does feed into that idea that I have of, like, even then we're watching characters watching characters.
Yeah.
At what point do you reverse that thinking until you recognize that, oh, wait, I'm a character? And then you look over your shoulder and you're like, who's watching me? And that's actually a very existential take on. It's interesting that a director with a funny narrative can make you think that. Every once in a while I wake up at 2, 3 in the morning just because.
Yeah.
Woke up the other night and I heard this tone happening. Ooh. And maybe in a half dream state, I was only awake 20, 30 seconds before rolling over again and falling back to sleep.
Yeah.
But I very clearly in my mind was like, oh, I hear the tone that Ben and Beverly were hearing in the Great Northern.
Yeah.
And in my mind, I said to myself, wait, is this real? And I said, oh, you're probably just in a half dream state. And then I actually looked at my darkened room and I said, yeah, there's nothing in here that's making that tone.
Right.
And yet I totally hear it. And I said to myself, huh, that's funny. And I rolled over and went back to bed.
Went back to bed.
But then woke up the next morning. I said, wait, how much is this show like influencing my reality? Especially we're doing the podcast and we're like going through every part of it.
A lot, yeah.
So I think that there's definitely something that Lynch and Frost get about witnessing and taking part in a narrative. A good book absorbs you, And so that's what we have here, where this is creeping into my own reality.
Right.
And one other comment I'd like to make on this, I have this other theory. I put on this other movie the other night where I was like, okay, I want to take a break from Twin Peaks and watch this other movie.
Yeah.
And I put this movie on called The Void. Have you by chance seen this?
Enter the Void?
No, Enter the Void is its own thing, and that's fun. But
no,
The Void, it's like a modern monster movie, basically. It's a small town, and it starts off focused on the sheriff in this small town that's in the Northwest, and there's pine trees and everything.
Okay.
There's some force that is an unidentified group of weird people that are following these people, and then suddenly there's a monster, and then suddenly there's a doctor that shows up and explains in the narrative, like, oh, I'm part of a secret society that's working on finding a dimension, a doorway to another dimension, right? So, and I'm through this movie, I'm thinking like, gosh, this reminds me of Twin Peaks. And then the doctor that comes out, sure enough, it's the same actor that played Wyndham Earle.
Nice.
And so I'm like, holy shit, this is an extension of the story of Twin Peaks, right? And then cut forward a couple other days, and I'm watching The Fiend with No Face, which is a late 40s scare high sci-fi movie. And again, I'm seeing these parallels to Twin Peaks, and I'm kind of just in my head like, in this funny way, saying, oh, it's funny. It's now that I'm so absorbed into that world, everything reminds me of Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
But then when you get Wyndham Earle as a character who's searching for the entryway to another dimension, you start to think like, well, okay, so Twin Peaks was so influential also that naturally you're going to get all these other projects that seem like they have something to do with it. And then I thought, wow, in a weird world, wouldn't it have been hilarious if in the millions of dollars from Showtime, the deal actually went down a decade ago, and Frost and Lynch have actually produced like 8 movies that are secretly connected to this story. Yeah. Of course, that's dismissed right away and a fun thing to think. But I just wanted to share that story because in a sense, I really am looking everything I see right now is reminding me of Twin Peaks. And then I realized that's how ubiquitous the story is. You have the young lovers, the couple, the noir, the detective story. You have interdimensional demons and monsters. You also have the average murder story, the whodunit story. You have the domestic violence, and you have the story of the drugs. And, so pick a story and think about the main element of that story. Any story, that main element is going to be represented in Twin Peaks somehow.
Right. It plays with all of these different genres and tropes and character stereotypes but are actually fleshed out into real characters. And it's
and
great.
They do it so well that it becomes this kind of archetypal story about all of humanity, whether you're talking about an injury to the brain, a chemical imbalance, a murder, or aliens.
Yeah, so let's maybe go from there to this question about Laura being the one, right? That the log lady says this. We saw Laura in the hotel room, or Cole saw Laura. I mean, I guess how I'm thinking about approaching it is by asking, in what sense, right? Also, as I was mentioning to you earlier, the log lady also says Laura is the one in that log lady intro to, I think, the very first episode, if you watch these log lady intros, right? They weren't available on all of the formats it's been released in, but...
Yeah, I had it on the DVD set where the log lady would come in, and at the time they filmed little intros with her.
Yeah, I think this is something that was only added once the show was like syndicated or something like that, actually. But in that first log lady intro, it ends with her saying Laura is the one, but the context is that this is a story about many, but it starts with one. Laura is the one, or something like that.
Yeah, the one leading to the many.
Right,
is Laura Palmer.
So that's one sense where you take this idea of Laura being the one, which is a bit different from, I don't know, the sense of like Neo in the Matrix or something, right? What do you think about this?
Well, I do think that, it could be a duality that's very intentional. I think as they were making the show, they did go back through all of the old elements and say, okay, what can we pull from here? And with Margaret Lanternman being one of those characters that comes in with the truth about what's going on, she always kind of highlights a little bit of a deeper level of understanding about what's happening. We know that this episode 10, is called Laura is the One, and we know that the episode titles are always based on the character speaking something.
It's a line of dialogue.
And here we see it's a line of dialogue from the log lady.
In
this
message,
one,
again,
it's another cryptic message, but this time she's talking more about electricity. She's saying to Hawk again, she says electricity is humming. You hear it in the mountains. She says something about you see it as the glow of around the moon.
But the glow is dying.
I remember, she says the glow is dying.
What will remain in the darkness?
Yep. And she points out that true men brothers are both true men, which is kind of funny. But, noble nonetheless.
They're true men and they're your brothers.
Yeah, she links them to being the brothers. Yeah. So these are the good ones that have been hanging out with him, she mentions.
No, I like it, yeah.
She says the circle is almost complete, which makes you wonder, okay, what's this happening?
Yeah.
And there's a specific line in here that caught my attention. Watch and listen to the dream of time and space. It all comes out now, flowing like a river.
That which is and is not.
And then she says, Hawk, Laura is the one. So the which is and is not reminds me of Laura saying, I am dead, yet I live.
Right.
She is and she is not.
And the kind of between two worlds motif and the is it future or is it past?
And just the idea of the dream of time and space. It's this whole thing that whether it was Wyndham Earle or Briggs or Cole, everybody's searching for this unanswered question that humanity has about time, space, time.
Right, yeah.
And if there's other dimensions, if you can get caught or trapped, if you can reverse time, so a lot of physics involved here, actually. But this makes me think of the idea of the expanding universe, right, from a singularity. Yeah. And there is an idea of, the question in physics as to whether the universe will just keep expanding forever.
Yeah.
Or whether it will, and then finally dissipate somehow. Or will it contract like breathing, where it'll contract back down to a singularity?
Yeah.
And if it does, how would we experience that? Would time, space itself run in reverse all the way back to the black hole, or the singularity,
bang.
The Big Bang?
Yeah. I dig it.
And if that's the case in the very physics realm, this everything that Lynch has presented us here with the reverse talking and with saying, is it future, is it past?
Right.
Suddenly that would all click in a real scientific understanding.
Well, yeah, or something like that, right? I want to be a little bit careful because I do think that Lynch and Frost they're sort of playing with science, with physics, with real science, and many worlds interpretations of quantum mechanics and all of that kind of stuff. But they're also certainly taking some level of poetic license, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And also playing with some kind of fringe ideas in physics and things like that. But I think it's very cool. And what's going on with time. Now, with this idea that Laura is the one, I'm thinking about that first Log Lady intro in part, reading this primarily as Laura being the one who kind of opens this all up, gets it all going.
Right. She's the first of many, the watershed moment.
Yeah,
if you will.
She's archetypal, right? As you used that word a little while ago. I think that's the sense I'm tending towards here.
I can feel that.
Any further thoughts about this?
Yeah, I think it is a game of those kind of symbols, and I do feel that. If Laura is the one, I think you mentioned earlier in comparison, not the one as in Neo in the Matrix.
Yeah,
but,
I know.
But like the one, and I like when you say that. That makes sense to me. But she's the one that started it all.
Mm-hmm.
She had what it took to put the ring on herself, or whatever that comes to.
Yeah, however that works out exactly.
So I can definitely see that. But in the world of symbols, we see this end with another transition shot of the moon, and it's half lit. It's a half moon.
Yeah.
And of course, we've just heard Margaret Lanterman talking about the glow around the moon is dying. So we could have a waxing moon reference.
Right.
But at the same time, it's a half moon, and this episode actually marks the exact halfway point through the series. And so this kind of language, there's the dream logic and then the language of symbols together. I think it is a little bit of a gray area where, again, like we've discussed before, it's more about the mystery than the discovering the solving of the mystery.
Right.
Yeah. And either way, so I like your take on it, but I take it just as the symbols that we're unraveling, and it just makes me really excited as to how much down into quote unquote a rabbit hole Lynch and Frost will take us, because we all know we've got our own rabbit holes from this.
Indeed. But I mean, with Gordon Cole having that vision of Laura, which is really how I'm reading that.
Yes.
Things are going to tie together in interesting ways.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So this episode wraps up again at the Roadhouse in what is given the most amount of screen time from all of the musical performances.
I think it's a good 7 minutes.
Yeah. This is Rebecca Del Rio.
Yeah. Singing this song, No Stars, which apparently was written by David Lynch.
Yeah. And so Rebecca Del Rio, we have seen before in Mulholland Drive. She sings the version Roy Orbison's Crying.
Right. Yolando.
And just very, very beautiful. And also a scene involving Naomi Watts from Mulholland Drive. And also, I don't know if we've mentioned this before, but if you look carefully at that scene in Mulholland Drive, you can see Cheryl Lee
and Phoebe
Laura
Augustine,
Palmer,
right?
And Phoebe Augustine, who plays Ronette Pulaski, are both sitting in the Silencio Theater watching Rebecca Del Rio sing this song.
Yeah, so if any of you are working on that all Lynch movies are in the same universe theory, here you go. Here's some more for that.
Yeah.
And her dress, we should mention, too.
The zigzag dress
is clearly a call out to the floor of the
And we do have red
room.
curtains as well that we've seen in the Roadhouse before. Incidentally, we get Moby, is another famous known musician who was also kind of the era, like bringing Trent Reznor and the Nine Inch Nails back.
Did you notice, though, that Moby is in the credits as a musician, not as himself?
Yeah.
I thought that was cute or funny.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know what to do with it.
Yeah. But it was also one of those moments where it was like there wasn't a clear band. The other bands, quote unquote, that have been credited have been like, oh, here's the Nine Inch Nails and all of them.
Right.
But this is basically a fictional band that doesn't exist.
Well,
it's
except
really Rebecca Del Rio.
She's separated out. She gets the credit where you normally get the musical performer's credit. But
Right.
Moby is just thrown in with the rest of the cast and
Right.
credited as musician.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, a little fun little moment, but beautiful song. And again, as we're looking into what the lyrics are and what they might mean, we see a lot of parallels with what's going on in the story.
Well, and all of this theme about there being no stars, basically, right? And even the lines in Spanish are often reiterating that same theme about seeing stars in your eyes, or now there are no stars, and so on.
Yeah, a lot of the lyrics are also about, take me back to that moment that we had before, and then when I go back now this second time, there are no stars, and turns out it was a dream kind of thing. And so it is like a longing for the time we used to have.
Yeah.
And then now we're in a different time, and we go back looking for that original place, and it's gone. So this reminds me in general, in a meta way, of the entire filming of The Return versus the old time of the original show.
Sure.
It also reminds me of Hawk going back to Glastonbury Grove, trying to find that, and turns out it's different now. And just how the idea you can't revisit the same place twice because you've moved forward in the dimension of time.
Yeah. Well, and you were talking earlier about the universe expanding and things like this. I read this interesting piece, it was a couple years ago now, I'd have to look up the reference. But basically what it was about was that if the universe keeps expanding, as scientists predict, and the human species continues to exist on planet Earth for long enough, which I guess is another question.
Right.
But at a certain point, the universe will expand, following his predictions, to where you would not be able to see any stars from Earth. They'd all be too far away. And then the real point was the question of what would the kind of epistemic status be of stars, right? You have all of these people who are talking about stars in the past, but if we could no longer see these stars, would you still have a sufficient justification to believe the stars were there?
Yeah, correct. And just how stars exist in our psyche, in our collective unconscious, if you will, always being there for us at night, the northern star guiding us.
Yeah.
And the one thing, quite beautiful, billions of trillions of stars being so beautiful when you can see them. And imagine not having those, and you look up at night and it's just a black void.
Exactly. It'd
that
be
would
depressing.
be a major bummer. Talk about seasonal affect syndrome.
Man, like the angels have all gone away, right?
Yeah, exactly. And if you were falling through space, would you burn up in flames or not?
Yeah.
But that's definitely, that goes in line also with everything that Bill Hastings has been researching in his little group. And so I think it's very fascinating. The quasi-fake website, that's Bill Hastings' 90s website, right?
Yeah.
So that has links to interdimensionalism, to some of Hyland's work, to Nikola Tesla's work on electricity.
And some stuff about time. That the one journal entry we see says something about what would happen if an event splintered time or something like that. Let me go down the rabbit hole just a little bit here with the time stuff.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so there's a question out there about what year it is, right? What year is it in The Return? The Secret History of Twin Peaks is dated as in the summer of 2016. Found at a crime scene in July. Tammy's going through it in August. We have those dates.
Right.
What year is it in the return? Now, a lot of people from the beginning were thinking 2014 because that would be 25 years later, right? If we were being strictly accurate there. But we do get an indication in part 9, really, if you're putting things together, right? It's not all in part 9.
Right.
But in part 9, Bill Hastings says he's 43 when Tammy's interviewing him.
Yeah.
Now, in the earlier episode, I think it was in part 1, you see Bill Hastings' driver's license, which has his birthday as in August of 1973.
Okay.
So, if he was born in 1973 and he's 43 years old in September, right, that would mean that it's September 2016.
2016.
Yeah. And we're getting the date there of September 29th, 2016. If he's 43 and was born in August of 1973, in order for him to be 43, it would have to be September of 2016. Yes?
Okay.
Okay. So you've got that bit. Okay, well, does that mean we're in 2016? Well, what about Wally? They tell us Wally is 24 years old. Wally Brando?
Correct, yeah.
Right? Well, if Wally was the son that Lucy was pregnant with in the original run, then in order for him to be 24 years old, right, the original run is 1989 is when it was supposed to be, although there's some inconsistency there, too. The published...
And the original one aired in, 90 and 91?
Yeah, but in narrative terms, it's supposed to be February of 1989.
Well, I'm also
that's
wondering,
mentioned in Fire Walk with Me and other places. Yeah,
but I'm also wondering, this one's airing in 2017, but there's like a year lag from when it ends, from when it airs to when the events are supposed to take place, right?
Okay, sure. But there's also some weirdness in that original runs. What year is it? Question that you have indications in other places that these events are in 1990 in the published Laura Palmer's diary, for example.
Right.
All right. So same kind of question was already there, maybe. But the thing about Wally is, well, a couple things about Wally. One I already mentioned. If he were 24 and was the baby Lucy was pregnant with in the original run, then that would put those events when Wally's coming to visit the sheriff's station in 2014 at the latest, right? But we're also told that he shares a birthday with Marlon Brando.
Correct.
Marlon Brando was born on April 3rd. You can look it up, right? This would seem to indicate that Lucy was maybe pregnant with him for over a year, right? If it was March when we left off the end of season 2, he wouldn't have been born the next month, right? Because Lucy had just found out she was pregnant and so on, right? So that's weird.
Yeah, I follow you.
Right?
Yeah.
So my point is, all of this doesn't quite seem to fit together. And if you also then maybe think about the discrepancies between the secret history of Twin Peaks and what we know from the show, I really am starting to think maybe the right interpretation is going to be something along these lines of splintered time or fractured time or parallel universes or something really crazy.
Yeah, that's quite interesting to see it down to that level of stamping the dates on everything.
Yeah.
And I do think we're headed in that direction for sure. Interesting question will be, where does that lead us? One of the things the log lady just said is that the circle is about to be closed. And a circle representationally is a loop. It's a loop in time so that when you get to the end, you're actually back at the beginning.
Yeah.
And so if there's a circle that's about to be closed, that would suggest to me that maybe we're about to breach some sort of beginning. If all of this culminates into a living, breathing Laura that's never been killed or something, or something
maybe, right? So Laura is the one who opens up this cycle that leads us through Cooper in the lodge and the doppelganger coming out and all of this, and maybe this splits and fractures time in some way, and it's coming back around to where Cooper, our hero ultimately, who will emerge, hopefully has to kind of close this loop and rectify time.
Yeah.
Just go off the deep end right now.
Yeah, right. Now, this is good. This is part of what we wanted to do in our quote-unquote fanatical discussion of all of this.
Yeah, and who killed JFK?
We might get into that in this show. It's not too late for that, actually. We've reached the bomb. You mentioned earlier that there might have been one event that triggered kind of
splintering of time.
Splintering of time.
Like that,
and of all the events that we've seen represented in the show so far, I think that 10-second countdown to the Trinity test bomb would fit as a pretty good moment in that. And then all the things we saw in that montage would suggest maybe that's the event that splintered time as space itself.
I think maybe, but then on Bill Hastings' website, he's the one who asks maybe it has something to do with the assassination of John F. Kennedy.
Correct, yeah.
Which, of course, is your standard kind of conspiracy theorist thing.
Mm-hmm.
But recall in the original series when Cooper's laying on the floor shot and he starts talking to Diane, he says one of his regrets has to do with that, like figuring out who killed JFK.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so
interesting.
That's a cool little throwback.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, so we'll see where all this unfolds. And then back to one more point about Bill Hastings' website. Have you seen the guest book in there? Have you gone in and checked out the comments that were...
I did, and I signed it.
Yeah, I did too.
And at one point, they posted a bunch of fans' things.
Oh, okay, cool.
And then they were gone within a day, so I don't know if that was a plan.
Oh, that's interesting. I wonder if they recurringly do that. We'll have to check back with there and see. But there's Bill Hastings is represented in there.
Yeah.
And there's somebody that says, way to go, BH, which we know is Bill Hastings.
Yeah.
And I think, is it HV?
Heinrich Wiegel?
Okay.
Yeah, we don't know who the hell that is. Maybe he's the guy in the picture with Mr. C, for all we know.
Correct.
We don't know who this Heinrich Wiegel is.
It's speculation, but I just wanted to bring that up because another thing about this show is that it's seeping off of the television screen. It exists in, besides just all these weird podcasts and stuff like where fans like us are discussing it, it's seeping into this website. There's the written publications coming from Mark Frost about all this. And then, of course, my ongoing theory that Twin Peaks is acting as a kind of a cultural virus that's infecting all the other movies you're going to see. And that every other movie made in the last 10 years is actually done by David Lynch and Mark Frost. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So, I enjoy going down that rabbit hole. So, yeah, we get this incredible Rebecca Del Rio performance to end this. There's definitely some things in the lyrics that we wanted to discuss about these parallels that are happening. But just in general, it was the iconography of Twin Peaks represented by her in the dress and the curtains behind her.
Right.
I just thought this was just such a beautiful moment. The soft pink color and hue that we get throughout the episode. And she just looks great and sounds amazing. And it's one of those moments that links the show back to Mulholland Drive.
Yeah, I kind of almost immediately went and watched that clip from Mulholland Drive.
Yeah.
I don't know if other people did this. But I love that scene too, right? Particularly the way that when she falls over and keeps singing, right? Like she'd been lip syncing, and I don't know. That's great.
Yeah, to the point
Hopefully
where you're kind of expecting
Drive.
that in the end of episode 10 is Rebecca Del Rio going to just fall over? And, or I was watching very intently to see if she was lip syncing,
right?
If there was any moment that strayed, you know. Because if we're in that theater, in the Silencio Theater or whatever it is, it's told to us by the narrator in that scene.
No hay bando.
Yeah,
right.
And that things don't necessarily work the same way in there, you know. Yeah. And so, I was also thinking that about the Roadhouse, are the rules different here or not?
Cool.
Yeah.
What
a cool pulpy episode. I'm glad to get some mention to some of the other characters we weren't sure we would see or get any more exposition on. For me, it wrapped up how much I hate Richard Horne, how much I want to see Audrey Horne.
Well, but I love to hate Richard Horne.
Exactly.
I don't just hate him. I enjoy hating him.
I really love hating this guy.
Yeah. It's fun.
But in general, so one other theme just to bring up that was kind of hinted at the beginning, now that we've discussed the whole episode, is this theme of domestic violence and abuse of women, right?
Yeah, definitely a lot of that going on.
Huge in this episode. And also the reactions and the aftermath of such domestic violence, whether it's Carl Rodd saying, oh, what a fucking nightmare, and not doing anything about it, or whether it's the reaction of Candy, who seems to be in some at least highly manipulated relationship that has totally fucked with her psyche.
Yeah.
And the way that she considers, will he love her again after she's made such a mistake?
Yeah, psychological abuse at least.
Exactly. And then the inter-family abuse that Richard Horne goes in and threatening his own grandmother, calling her cunt. And then, of course, the murder of Miriam. And then Stephen and Becky having their spat,
Yeah.
And just how awful and, critical Stephen looks. He looks like he's about to murder her.
Yeah, bring it back to Laura, right? I mean,
exactly.
So Laura is the one. Well, what happened with Laura? Her father raped her for years and killed her.
Yeah.
okay, he was possessed by this evil spirit, Bob, but still, her father raped her for years and killed her. And as you mentioned, I think that scene we see is her crying about that discovery.
Right.
Right. So that sort of thematic link tying all of these stories would seem to have to do with something about, I don't know, let's just say violence and intimate violence.
Right.
You know? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And what will Laura represent in all of this? Mm-hmm. And how will the scales be tipped, basically?
Yeah, we don't know.
So, on that note, we're eagerly awaiting episode 11.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to go ahead and sign off now. Cameron, always really good talking to you about all this stuff.
Good talking to you too, Mike.
And join us next time. This has been Drinkful and Descend, a fanatical analysis of Twin Peaks.